Everyone treats summer like it owes you happiness. Long days, pool parties, your best life on a loop. So what does it mean when you feel worse? The summer blues are real. It's why summer is one of the busiest stretches of the year for people starting therapy. Therapy is not only for when you're in crisis. Grow therapy is for all the moments when you decide you want more. More support, more clarity, more tools. Mental health isn't a destination you reach. It's something you build, and Grow makes that easier. Grow connects you with thousands of high-quality licensed therapists across the U.S., offering both virtual and in-person sessions, nights and weekends. You can search by what matters, like insurance, specialty, identity, or availability, and get started in as little as 2 days. There are no subscriptions, no long-term commitments. You just pay per session. Grow helps you find therapy on your time. The therapist you want takes your insurance on Grow. Grow accepts over 125 insurance plans. Sessions average $21 with insurance, and some pay as little as $0 depending on their plan. Visit growtherapy.com/booknow today to get started. That's growtherapy.com/booknow. growtherapy.com/booknow. Availability and coverage vary by state and insurance plan.
Take it from United Van Lines. Moving yourself sounds simple until it isn't. The packing, the lifting, the truck rental, the stairs, the mess, and suddenly, do it yourself feels like do everything yourself. Now, imagine a move with United Van Lines. United's pros know how to pack, lift, protect, and transport your belongings safely, efficiently, and on schedule. No guesswork, no borrowed dollies, no wondering if your couch will survive the trip. With the full-service move by United, your move is handled by experts. Your time stays yours. Your belongings stay protected, and your stress level dramatically lower. Because moving shouldn't leave you exhausted before you even arrive. Full-service moving from America's #1 mover, United. It's a better way to move. Get a free quote at UnitedVanLines.com.
Cartoons from present in the past. Every week will be an animated bash. What a cartoon! What a cartoon! Maybe a short but mostly shows. We'll talk, we'll analyze, exploring as we go. What a cartoon! What a cartoon! What a cartoon! What a cartoon!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to What a Cartoon, where the trumpet players are permitted to play. I'm one of your hosts, the expert writher Bob Mackey, and this is an audio exploration of every cartoon ever, who is here with me today as always.
Gee whiz and goshy willikers, it's Henry Gilbert.
And this month's podcast is all about the Mighty Mouse The New Adventures episode, Mighty's Benefit Plan.
Here I come to save the day.
Yes, in this month we are covering Mighty Mouse The New Adventures, something we really should have covered in the first year of What a Cartoon, because it's that important. But here we are in year 9, finally getting around to it, and we'll explain more in the history segment, but this is the show that kicked off all of the TV animation we ever loved in our childhoods and still celebrate today. We would not be where we are in TV animation if not for this 19-episode program that barely aired on CBS.
It is wild to see what a foundational program it is to the future of like American animation. It's even before the wave of Roger Rabbit's release. Roger Rabbit's being worked on during this, but this is before that. Like, this is the first thing in the 80s, I really think, that disconnected from the shitty toy cartoons of the 80s and got to be a good cartoon on TV.
And in fact, the episode we're covering today is making fun of the landscape, the TV cartoon landscape that was surrounding this so weird cartoon. And if I can sell you on this even more, listener at home, you might be thinking, doesn't Mighty Mouse suck? And yes, Mighty Mouse sucks. Mighty Mouse is lame. I forced myself to watch a few of those original shorts, and I kind of fast forwarded through a bunch of them. There's nothing redeeming about the original Mighty Mouse, so you're right about that. But this creation is not the Mighty Mouse of the past. In fact, All the creatives who worked on it went on to define television animation in the 90s and beyond. So people that worked on this would go on to make Ren and Stimpy, The Simpsons, Tiny Toon Adventures, Batman the Animated Series, Animaniacs, and more. And two guys who worked on this won Oscars for Pixar, specifically for Wall-E. So it's insane how much talent Ralph Bakshi was able to assemble. Many of these people right out of CalArts, like freshly graduated, getting paid nothing.
It's many people's first professional jobs is the New Adventures, and it's so important when you look back on it. Just the credits are a marvel to look at, and yes, I also pulled up a couple of old Mighty Mouse cartoons that are very freely available on YouTube, and if I saw them at all as a kid, maybe they got rerun on like Pee-wee or like on a really poor episode of Bozo the Clown on WGN, but they are just so, I'm okay with the opera in it as a kid even, but it is like sub Popeye. Like I'd rather watch like a 60s TV budget Popeye with Brutus in it than some of these Mighty Mouse with Oil Can Harry or whatever.
This is going to break some hearts out there, maybe just Thad Komorowski's, but I don't like Terry Toons. I don't like that brand. They were barely shown to us as kids. We'll get into Terry Toons. Mighty Mouse is a Terry Toons character, but it ain't no Looney Tunes. It isn't even Fleischer or anything in that realm. It's a lesser cartoon, I'll say, but still important. I don't want to discredit it entirely, but we'll get into why I'm not a big fan of these cartoons. Or sorry, the Terry Toons that came before this resurrection. We'll get into that later. But before I go on today, Henry, what is your experience with this particular cartoon? You were alive, as was I.
Yes, I was a viewer of it as a little kid. At 5 years old, when it would have premiered, just barely 5, I watched it with zero sense of the parody or satire or comedy in it. I liked that it was a colorful superhero that fought other people, and it slowly, very slowly, the comedy like dawned on me. To know it was on CBS, it was... I probably just didn't change the channel from watching Muppet Babies and then saw that a show called Mighty Mouse about a superhero cartoon guy was on. And so, I watched it, and for a long time, I had the little toys that they gave away at a certain fast food place. And so I was a regular watcher of Mighty Mouse in its brief time on TV, but like the Adam West Batman show, I totally missed the comedy was way over my head as a 5-year-old.
Yes, I was also 5, and I did watch this show. I'm not sure how much of it I watched, but to give things away here, it was the show that aired immediately after Pee-wee's Playhouse in its first season. So that's a mind-warping hour of television, kind of a life-defining hour of television if your brain is developing in 1987, as our brains were. And I have distinct memories of this episode because it is sort of a proto Ren and Stimpy episode, and no one had made a cartoon like this before for television, and no viewer, especially a 5-year-old, had seen a cartoon like this. So the fact that it was this weird really stuck with me and haunted me, and I will always have the memory of the Dave Seville character with Cheerios constantly in his mouth because no other cartoon had ever done that. Just have a character just spewing cereal every time he talks. It was so weird, and that is a distinct memory of childhood. I remember the room I was in. I remember just trying to turn that over in my brain. Like, what am I watching? Nothing else is like this. And then I was watching a few of the other episodes, and I thought, okay, I remember the Batman parody, I remember this, but your brain it's absorbing a lot of stuff, but in the terms of the timeline of your life, you don't really remember where you are at age of 5 for every moment. But I remember specific elements of this cartoon because, again, we'll get into it, but it's a weird cartoon for this era.
Yeah, 5 years later, by the time I'm 10, I can take in watching The Tick, or maybe I'm even 11 then. When I'm watching The Tick, that I can totally understand that something is parodying, Batman or The Punisher. But watching this, even Bat in this show, I didn't totally get what it was making fun of, let alone all the references to just even seeing the name, a Ralph Bakshi cartoon at the top of it, completely going over my head of how just saying that on a Saturday morning cartoon is crazy to parents of the 70s.
Yes, I was 5. I hadn't seen Fritz the Cat yet. I still haven't, but I'll eventually see it when I'm old enough. But yeah, I also remember the villain, the cow. That's one of my other memories because it is Michael Pataki doing the voice. He would later do the same voice for the George Liquor character on Ren and Stimpy, and that's a voice you don't hear on cartoons, especially then.
Yes, yeah, it's the George Liquor voice coming out of him. There's so many random. I mean, this is back to when you would not hear voices done by the animators, and even in this one there's multiple just random lines that sound like, oh well, that sounds like the animator, not like one of the board artists doing it, not the regular voice actors for the show.
Yeah, the team is all over this. In fact, just in the handful of episodes I watch for this podcast, there are caricatures of everybody like in every episode. If you know what they look like, well, it's like, well, that's Bruce Timm, that's John Cristofalusi, that's Eddie Fitzgerald, that's Tom Minton. So many characters are designed to look like Tom Minton because he's a weird-looking guy.
This is like the Ren and Stimpiest of the episodes, probably.
Oh, yes.
Or up there. Yeah, I only rewatched a couple. I had forgotten. I think it's a season 2 one. That was one I rewatched where they get even more direct of mocking every other 80s cartoon, especially the Ghostbusters.
Yes.
The real Ghostbusters really take it in that one.
We'll get into it. They were really cruel to the real Ghostbusters in an unfair way, but I think John Cristofalusi especially hated how the cartooniness was being taken out of cartoons. And I can see that you look at something that is, Saturday morning anime and you think, well, this isn't Bugs Bunny, and I hate it.
Yes. Yeah. And then on top of that, we grew up with the voice acting of Peter Venkman that is so flat that I can see why it's normal to us, but you're watching it like, oh, this is no fun because everybody talks like this.
Yes.
They all sound like Garfield.
That's the best part of that parody. By the way, their parody of the real Ghostbusters is called the Real Gag Busters because there's no jokes. And I say, hey, guys, watch that show. It can be kind of funny sometimes. But yes, everyone, for whatever reason, they make every Ghostbuster sound like Lorenzo music.
Yes. Yeah. It's full of great gags. Yes. It's just an amazing production that I guess they can also get away with because Mighty Mouse is only sort of like Gumby in the 80s. Like, I don't think had any legitimate fandom to it, only ironic childhood fandom. Thanks
to Andy Kaufman, mostly. In
Absolutely.
A very prolonged bit that I guess you would not stand for today, but it was very funny in the 70s or early 80s. I don't know when he did that bit.
Oh, he did it on the very first Saturday Night Live. Yes.
Back when it was funny, right?
Yeah. Well, it is an important moment in the terrible Jason Reitman movie 90 Minutes to Air about the real time 90 minutes before SNL starts, and like Andy Kaufman's character magically appears and performs it, and he's like, "What are you going to do today, Andy?" And then Andy does the bit live and you're like, "Whoa, how amazing."
Well, speaking of important moments, it's time to plug the Patreon. So this episode is brought to you by patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. So if you go there, support the show, sign up for $5, you get all of our episodes ad-free. If you don't like ads, that's where you got to go. You get everything 1 week ahead of time. And you also get access to our vast back catalog of miniseries episodes covering things like Futurama, King of the Hill, Mission Hill, Batman the Animated Series, and The Critic. That's over 200 episodes in the back catalog. And you'll also get a new episode of both Talking Futurama and Talking of the Hill every month at that $5 level. So it supports the show, and we appreciate everybody on the Patreon at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
And when you sign up there for the early and ad-free stuff too, you could go up to the premium level of $10 a month and you get all of that, plus our monthly What a Cartoon Movie, which you would have just seen in your free feed last month's of Zootopia, our free preview of it, where you get a little dose of the history. But if you want the entire discussion of a film directed by a Mighty Mouse alumni, then you need to check that out at the premium level at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. You can also hear us talk about the month before that, Wreck-It Ralph from 2012. We're in the summer of Disney 2010s, and so many classic films in that back catalog. Too many to name, but definitely many from this era of animation too. It's all at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
Yeah, Wreck-It Ralph is really a kind of a sequel to Mighty Mouse: The New Adventures, if you only count the fact that Jim Reardon and Rich Moore worked on it.
Yeah, a similar comedy in both of them of just like that it is your childhood heroes are weirder and older now kind of story. I can see the connection.
So this is a very long history to go through, and I had to be selective because I did not want this podcast to be 4 hours long. So we're dealing with three big subjects here. We have Terry Toons in general. We have Mighty Mouse as a character, and we have Ralph Bakshi. And
Wow.
we can't cover all of that in great detail. And then we have the history of the program we're talking about today. So that's kind of 4 things we have to get through here. But I want to provide enough information about these topics to provide context, but ultimately I want to focus on the new adventures because that's why we're here today. So let's begin with Mighty Mouse. I did not know where he came from. This is very enlightening to me. So he began his cartoon career in 1942 with the Terry Toons short, The Mouse of Tomorrow. And in this short, and several others to follow, he was named Super Mouse because
Right.
Superman was a fairly recent invention at the time. Henry, you were aware of this Super Mouse deal? I was not aware of this Super Mouse deal.
Oh, no, I did. In prep for this, I did pull up the first Mighty Mouse cartoon as it was billed on YouTube, where he goes to a supermarket and eats super thing. Like it's all of these super bits. And yeah, I mean, smart on the Terry Toons, you mash together Mickey Mouse plus Superman, the biggest stars at Fleischer, the new big star at Fleischer, but at that time, and the biggest star in cartoons. Like it's a smart move for a new series.
Yes, he originally started as an explicit Superman parody down to the color of his outfit. And like you said, Henry, the whole joke is this mouse is being attacked by cats, so he goes to the supermarket, a new idea at the time. You've heard of the regular grocery store. Well, now we have supermarkets, and he eats the superfood, and he becomes Super Mouse, who doesn't talk or have a theme song, but he powers up with the superfood and kicks cat ass at the end of the cartoon. And with most of these Mighty Mouse cartoons I've noticed, at least the classic ones, it's largely about other groups of things, and then Mighty Mouse appears at the end as the kind of Deus Ex Machina, if you will, to save the day, as he says in his song.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to be a very interesting character on his own. It's unlike, say, Popeye. Popeye is an interesting guy. He's a really weird, ugly dude who has love stories. He has nephews to take care of. But in Mighty Mouse, in the ones I watched of classic Mighty Mouse, you're just kind of waiting for his spinachy type moment of, all right, when's he gonna beat up this guy? Like, let's get to it, Mighty Mouse.
Yeah, the New Adventures does the work that the original Mighty Mouse shorts didn't, in that it gives Mighty Mouse a setting, an origin story, a weakness, regular characters.
Yeah, even wait, did he have a secret identity in the classic ones, or so that was it too? Huh?
As far as I know, he did not. And I like the show kind of hates Mighty Mouse, by the way, the New Adventures. So Mighty Mouse is kind of stupid in that he wears his regular civilian clothes over his superhero suit.
Right. That's great. I mean, it's all the jokes that if you grew up watching Superman or Batman cartoons, you're just like, well, he's just walking around with his outfit right underneath it. How does he not get caught half the time? It's ridiculous.
So let's rewind a bit to talk about Terry Toons. And I cannot give an entire history of Terry Toons, but I don't think anyone out there is desiring that on this podcast, thankfully. So named after Paul Terry, who got his start in animation back in 1916, he eventually helped found an animation studio called Fables, which was dedicated to making shorts about Aesop's fables. Very easy early cartoon concept there. So eventually the film producer Amadee J. Van Buren bought into this Fables studio. Now, we've heard of Van Buren in the past. He wanted Terry and his crew to make these newfangled talkie shorts that were all the rage. They made a talkie short called Dinner Time, which actually predated Steamboat Willie by a month, but they used a post-synchronization technique for the audio, meaning sound was added after the fact. The cartoon was not planned around an existing soundtrack. They did it in a cheaper, faster way. So Van Buren was like, no, I want pre-synchronized sound. Terry didn't want to do it. He was fired, and that is how Terry Toons is formed. Van Buren then starts his own studio, and Terry Toons would survive until 1973, and Van Buren actually did not last long. It closed in 1936 after its formation, about 5 years, I think. And it sounds like Van Buren preemptively shut down his own studio to cut off any collective action by his unionized animators. So he took his ball and went home, and the good news is he died soon afterwards. And that is the story of Terry Toons and Van Buren.
Van Buren is mainly only known to me from our research because it is one of the public domain favorites of Futurama.
Yes.
Like they use a lot of Van Burens in that.
And it turns out, I think it's just 1931 and 1936, and that's all she wrote for Van Buren.
Wow, they look oldie time enough, and at least as far as they're used for an opening gag on Futurama, it is very likely you haven't, as a viewer, seen the Van Buren original. So you at least have the like, what the hell is this kind of moment that they want from a moment like that on Futurama.
Yes, like an old cartoon you've never seen. And I should note that it seems like Van Buren liked making their cartoons fast and cheap. And I feel like Van Buren probably was not going to pay for the time necessary to make a synchronized, pre-synchronized sound short. He wanted probably the same shorts for the same money, but with the talkie element in it. That was like the ones that were Disney was making. But I noticed with Terrytoon shorts, they are largely dialogue free in a way that feels like they want to save money. Because if you watch these compared to like the Tom and Jerry's and the Looney Tunes and the Disney shorts, they are on a lower level. They're still theatrical animation, but you can tell immediately they are lesser cartoons.
These you'd put them below like even the Universal Oswalds, the post Disney Oswalds in quality are about the same. You'd say.
Yeah, you know what? I haven't seen those, but I'm going to say yes.
Okay, all right.
I was not really impressed by Terrytoons and their output. I'm sorry, Terrytoons fans, please hear me out. So Mighty Mouse, back to him. So he was originally envisioned as a fly character. He became Mighty Mouse with his 8th cartoon, The Wreck of the Hesperus, in 1944.
Wow. That was the name of the spanking game for Homer in Stonecutters, The Wreck of the Hesperus.
Apparently, that is a famous poem, and this cartoon version inserts Mighty Mouse at the end to save the day.
I see. Man, 8 cartoons to get his name. That's crazy.
Yeah, and apparently his name was changed because a comic anthology magazine had its own Super Mouse, and I guess Terrytoons did not want there to be confusion. I'm guessing there might have been pushback from whoever owns Superman. Like you can't have Super Mouse and have him be red and blue.
Yeah, it's the red and blue that really is the like wow. Super Bugs gets away with it because Bugs predates Superman, I believe, and so, or sorta. I think it's 38 for Superman, but regardless, that it was a parodic episode of like Bugs Bunny is parodying Superman, not here is an original character who is a super mouse and has the same outfit and colors.
And it's actually kind of hard to find the original shorts with the Super Mouse branding because they were edited for TV packages a billion years ago. And it was very easy to overdub these cartoons because there's barely any talking. And it's usually a narrator who is very easy to overdub. So, yeah, you're mostly going to find the Mighty Mouse versions of these. And I'm sure the original negatives were thrown in the trash or burned or something like that. But ultimately, it's a Terrytoons cartoon.
Right. Now it makes sense why when I watched that original that's on YouTube that was a very good transfer. Every joke keeps going, he ate super this, he ate super cheese, and then he turned into Mighty Mouse. Like, that does not follow in writing.
It's a slightly different voice that says Mighty Mouse, too. Yeah, they're mostly dialogue-free. I really couldn't pin down exactly when there's talking, but it rarely ever happens in the Mighty Mouse shorts that ran from 1942 to 1961. I was not going to watch all of them. I was skimming through a ton of them in public, and I was hoping no one was seeing me watching Mighty Mouse and calling the police. But like I said, I think Paul Terry loved churning out cartoons without dialogue for the sake of simplicity, for the sake of getting the product out into theatrical distribution. So I think that was the angle in this phase of Mighty Mouse, at least.
And does the singing comes in later then?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that actually comes up right next in the timeline because we're in the future now, in the 50s. Mighty Mouse becomes a big hit with young boomers thanks to a package show called Mighty Mouse Playhouse, and that is where the iconic Mighty Mouse theme enters the picture. This aired on TV from 55 to 67, so it is a fundamental part of the boomer childhood, which is why Andy Kaufman does his bit on SNL, and then they're able to make a reboot in the 80s because the parents remember Mighty Mouse.
I just can imagine in 75, you're watching this hip comedian who comes up on stage and the bit basically is like a remember when, or it starts with nostalgia and also pointing out that, you know, the song the bit is he plays a record that plays the Mighty Mouse theme, and he only moves and lip syncs for when Mighty Mouse talks to say, here I come to save the day. And it's just him uncomfortably standing around waiting for that line to come. And so as a joke, it works great, his performance, but also for people who grew up with it to think about, that was weird, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That old cartoon.
I mean, I respect some things Andy Kaufman did. In some ways, he was a genius, but also I think that bit where you were just a busboy on the side as a joke. Like, who has the time for this? Who has the time to work a part-time job for a joke?
Yeah, he was a crazy, he was maybe a madman or a genius, as they say in his okay movie about it. But I think the worst thing I'd say Andy Kaufman did is that people thought they could just be assholes and say, I'm doing Andy Kaufman. It's Andy Kaufman.
Yeah, like especially when they're drawing into his like provocative stuff he was doing.
Yeah, I'm the new Andy Kaufman, when it's really just you're being an asshole. And Andy Kaufman was much less of an asshole than you think you're being when you're pretending to be Andy Kaufman. The Wonder Chosen guys, I think, are one of the better people who will say in interviews they want to be the new Andy Kaufman. I think actually could pull it off better than most.
They hilariously wasted your time just as much as Andy Kaufman did in his lifetime. So notably, Paul Terry sold the entire company, Terry Toons, to CBS in 1955. He thought, this is the future. This is where my cartoons will belong. So please have my entire catalog, and you now own the characters. So CBS, to this day, owned by the most evil corporation on the planet.
Yeah, now it's number one. Yeah, I wouldn't have said it before, but the Ellisons have really shot up the rankings lately. It's where Mighty Mouse lives, where he has to be. Do you think he's even included on like an even top 500 list of properties owned by?
Absolutely not. There is no way in hell. I do not see this happening. He was kicked off of Paramount. So there's no time for the entire history of Terry Toons, by the way. I'm sorry. But around 56 or 57, the company hires a young man named Ralph Bakshi as a cell painter. So Ralph would eventually start animating on Deputy Dog in 1959. And by 1964, he was a director at the age of 25. And I thought, like, oh, do I need to ask Thad Komorowski for Ralph Bakshi information? Do I need to reach out to him? And the answer is no, because Thad Komorowski sat in on our entire Cool World history segment, I think 6 years ago, and we have an entire discussion about Ralph Bakshi's career. So please go back to that What a Cartoon Movie episode about Cool World. Look that up. We have a very in-depth conversation about where Bakshi came from, where he ended up, and why Cool World is the way it is.
Cool World is quite an interesting thing. Not a great movie, but a very interesting machine, or a very interesting production and story. And that it now that we're talking about Mighty Mouse, it's easy to see it as, well, the hit of Mighty Mouse plus Roger Rabbit is how he gets to make Cool World.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I want to tell people out there, do not be fooled, because this show is called Mighty Mouse: The New Adventures. There's another show called The New Adventures of Mighty Mouse. That was the first reboot. That ran from 79 to 80. It's a Filmation cartoon, so you do not want to see this. And even more insultingly, this Filmation series spawned a clip show movie. So there was a movie called Mighty Mouse in the Great Space Chase from 1982, and it stitched together a serialized Filmation Mighty Mouse story, mostly because Star Wars was a hot property. So I cannot imagine what it would have been like to see a Filmation cartoon in a theater, but it sounds, I would stop. I would like drop my kid off at the orphanage after that. I would say, we're done. We're done here. I can't take this anymore.
That makes the Heathcliff clip show movie seem good by comparison, because at least it would have had TMS animation in it. But man, Filmation, I would much rather watch a public domain Terry Toons of like Heckle and Jekyll than a Filmation of Mighty Mouse. That sounds so bad.
Heckle and Jekyll are the only people I would take out of the Terry Toons refuse bin.
They do appear in stuff. They are also, I wouldn't call them, they're not public domain, but they definitely seem gettable to put in your movie. Of like, I'm thinking of how the Kill Bill Volume 2 ends, and they need to have the kid watching a kid watching cartoons on TV, and it's just Heckle and Jekyll talking and saying something.
Yeah, I know there's some Scully episode of The Simpsons from his run where Heckle and Jekyll show up in a fantasy, and it's just them. And they're on the commentary, they're like, did we get permission for this? And I don't think they did.
That's right. Yeah, it's like a fantasy that Homer died, and they're visiting his grave, right?
I think one of them says, yeah, he was a real sack of crap.
That's right, man. Yeah, but nobody cares that fight a lawsuit over Heckle and Jekyll.
No. Okay, so we've talked about Mighty Mouse. We've talked about Ralph Bakshi. We've talked about Terry Toons. Now it's time to talk about Mighty Mouse: The New Adventures. And I want to credit Then here's that name again, Thad Komorowski. I think it's the 5th time I mentioned him on this podcast. Well, he wrote an amazing book on Ren and Stimpy. We've talked about it plenty on this podcast, but it's called Sick Little Monkeys. And because so much of this show is important to what Ren and Stimpy would become in the creation of Ren and Stimpy, Thad Komorowski covers this cartoon in his book. So I used that book for research. Also, the DVD contains a featurette called Breaking the Mold, the remaking of Mighty Mouse, and it's pretty meaty for a DVD extra. The DVDs are out of print, but this is on YouTube. And by the way, the DVD files for the DVDs are just on archive.org if you want to see the DVDs and listen to the commentaries. They won't sell them to you, so you might as well just grab them from there.
Again, they're not on the Paramount either. It would be so easy to just put them on there. Yes, until I had read Sick Little Monkeys, I did not read Thad's book. I did not realize how key, especially this episode, is to the history of Ren and Stimpy and the Ren and Stimpy connection. And thus, by being connected to Ren and Stimpy, it also makes it one of the more important cartoons of like American animation.
Yeah, we would not have SpongeBob if not for Mighty Mouse: The New Adventures.
Or really any Nicktoon.
Yeah, exactly.
Back to school is busy enough. The last thing you need is shopping that makes it harder. Whether you're moving into a dorm, your first apartment, or just getting organized for the semester, Wayfair makes it easy to get everything you need in one place. Furniture, bedding, storage, decor, study essentials, all at prices you'll love, with fast shipping before move-in day. Get everything you need for back-to-school season. Shop Wayfair.com today.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
So I'll give a little refresher on Bakshi, just so you know who he is and where he was at the time of this show's debut. So he was mostly known for the world of adult animated features. So at this point in his career, he directed 8 features. His most notable one was his first. That was 1972's Fritz the Cat. And this was a gigantic hit in 1972. To let you know what was going on in 1972, Deep Throat was number 8 in the list of 10 highest grossing movies for that year. So people were going to see porno.
Yes, it became like a date movie thing almost. It was as mainstream as porno had gotten to that point, or dirty movies. Like it's why in Taxi Driver, the main character thinks he can take Sybil Shepherd to a porno.
Yes, like we can barely get PG-13 animated movies these days, and Fritz the Cat was, like I said, in the top 10 or around the top 10. It was a very big hit for 1972. That carried Bakshi for a very long time up until this point. So in 1983, Fire and Ice stalled out, didn't really do well. That's a fantasy movie he made. Have you seen this, Henry? I think I rented it way back in the day.
I saw it a couple times. It was a favorite of a friend of mine's her dad was a big nerd who loved it and introduced it to her, and she was a fan of it too, not just for the fun sword and sorcery, but also it's PG-13. It is not R-rated like Fritz, but it has a sexuality to it. It's the Frank Frazetta sexuality to it she really liked. Just sword and sorcery stuff.
I watched it back in the day, and also his movie Wizards, because my stepdad was a real 70s nerd. I'm making the weed smoking motion, but he was the 70s nerd that was into fantasy stuff. So he loved all of this stuff.
In Fire and Ice, it's a lot of also rotoscoped animation, and I remember it being fun. Maybe someday, also because it's one of the at least 2 of the writers on it, I believe, the scripters were comic book writers who I was a fan of too from the 70s. So it's I think Jerry Conway, the recently passed away Jerry Conway, was one of them. So someday it might be nice to do Fire and Ice, but it's not high on our list of movies.
Yeah, it's not the most notable Ralph Bakshi one. Fritz the Cat would be a hard one to cover, but it would be interesting to look into. I kind of want to see it for the first time. So Ralph Bakshi is in a bad place. He can't make a hit movie. We don't have time to cover all of the attempted projects in this dark period, but one notable work that came out of this time is the music video for the Rolling Stones song Harlem Shuffle. So Bakshi's animation team at the time consisted of all the notable early Ren and Stimpy talent. So if you watch this video today, it basically looks like a rough Ren and Stimpy cartoon, and it's very easy to find on YouTube. It contains a lot of the same elements that John Kricfalusi would be obsessed with throughout his career when he was still allowed to make cartoons.
Yes, yeah. Let's say on that the better. But yeah, the Harlem Shuffle was if I had ever seen it, it had been a long time. It is such an interesting video to pull up and watch recently. That the Rolling Stones in their 80s, and I don't mean they're now in their 80s, but in the 1980s, they wanted a cool music video about they went to the guy who directed the film quote unquote Coonskin and others.
Yeah,
that I can understand why they went to him for that, but yes, it is so. Like it has just the Lynn Naylor touch too. Like all of that is right there in it.
Yeah, and you can see also like wow, John Kricfalusi really loves the Bob Clampett cartoon Coal Black, the very very racially interesting parody of Snow White that I think we've all come to terms with.
Yes, yeah, it is amazingly animated. It's for the Warner time, but it is no one would contest that it is not a racist cartoon.
Yeah, I think there are no more cool animation guys getting on their soapbox for that cartoon.
And also watching it too, it made me realize that I think that it starts with a cherub character, a Cupid-like character who is, a heavy-set black man. It made me think, what was the ghost transformation at the end of the Ren and Stimpy haunted house, who is also like a large naked black man?
Yes.
Is that a reference to the character in Harlem Shuffle, or was it just a fun thing they like drawing?
Well, cartoons used to be different, weren't they?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Just a large naked black guy would walk out and be, that's the end of your Nick.
And then he drives away in his convertible, right?
Yes, yeah, and just laughs. He's like, God, that's so fucking. I just watched it again. I was like, they really got away with a ghost drinks poison and dies, which makes him live again because he's.
Yes. Actually, I was thinking like, how did he become that guy? And I was like, oh right, they got a ghost to commit suicide on the screen, and then he became alive and he drove away.
It's insane.
And that was originally a Tiny Toons cartoon that was rewritten to be a Ren and Stimpy.
God damn. Oh, that's good.
Instead of Ren and Stimpy, it was going to be Plucky and Hampton. We're going to be talking a lot about Ren and Stimpy. That's kind of why I'm covering this too, because I love Ren and Stimpy. Anyway, this music video, the Harlem Shuffle for the Rolling Stones, this gets Bakshi back to LA, renews his interest in animation, but he was on his way back to New York in early retirement before a fateful meeting with Judy Price, who headed up CBS's animation block. Again, a woman in charge. Are the people who are making all of these shows happen in terms of greenlighting them, like Vanessa Coffey, Margaret Lesh? Is that her name?
Yeah, Margaret Lesh. Yeah, and oh God, the woman who was the Cartoon Network person in charge of Powerpuff Girls. I mentioned her a ton in the Powerpuff Girls episode from last year or early this year, but she was huge too. Like they are some of the women who get ignored in animation history, and it's easy to dump on execs.
Yeah,
fuck execs. I get it, but these women were the ones who actually staked their careers on cool cartoons happening.
And I think largely it was probably sexism that got them in these positions. Like, well, we're not going to have you in charge of real shows. You can be in charge of Saturday morning, okay?
That's basically like making you the cartoon mommy. It's like, well, you should just be mommy to these cartoons.
Exactly. So he had a meeting with Judy Price. She headed up CBS's animation block, Saturday morning block in general. And he knew this could be his last shot, so he teamed up with his team of future superstars to work on pitches for this final shot. And these superstars include, and I'll explain who they are later, but just to name them, John Kricfalusi, Lynn Naylor, Eddie Fitzgerald, Tom Minton, so we have Pinky and the Brain on board here. Also, Jim Reardon is part of this. And then we'll go over more of these superstars later, but he has the people, again, who would define Tiny Toons, The Simpsons, Ren and Stimpy, Batman the Animated Series, everything that we love and obsess about and talk about, the backbone of all of our podcasts.
Every major cartoon that we have covered as part of our podcast, it all goes back to this. It is incredibly it's the primordial ooze of this podcast network.
Mm-hmm. And at this meeting, CBS rejects Bakshi's pitches, the new pitches, because they just weren't interested. And it sounds like this batch included Our Gang, which was the Bullwinkle-style ensemble show that Ren and Stimpy were going to be a part of. That was pitched to Vanessa Coffey, I believe, and she was like, I like this cat and dog. Let's make them into a show. Or what can you do with them? So everything else from that pitch was thrown away, and Ren and Stimpy became the superstars and got on to make their own show. But CBS said no to Our Gang as well. And he had nothing left, and this could be an apocryphal story, by the way. This is just the legendary story that Ralph Bakshi tells. Bakshi bluffed and said, well, I own the rights to Mighty Mouse. And Judy Price thought this was a prime opportunity to bring back this boomer era character for a new generation. And of course, she didn't realize that the company she worked for owned Mighty Mouse. So this Bakshi bluff paid off. She thought she would get Mighty Mouse for free and get another show that could potentially be popular. But like I said, CBS owned it. But here's the thing. I hear from other sources that aren't Ralph Bakshi that he knew that CBS owned Mighty Mouse, so it would be an easy pitch. But I like the more fun story more.
Ralph Bakshi, if he's anything, he's a raconteur. He's a great storyteller. Whether it's true or not, it's a fun story. I like the version of that he didn't know that they own Mighty Mouse and he was pitching to the owners. Now everybody knows who owns everything because it's easy to know 5 people own everything. So
and much easier to look up to. So Mighty Mouse: The New Adventures enters production very quickly, and Bakshi needs to staff up to add to his collection of superstars. Many of these folks hired right out of CalArts. So along with all the people we mentioned, a few others are hired. So we have number 1, Andrew Stanton. So a director of films like WALL-E and Finding Nemo, instrumental to all of Pixar's Toy Story films and many others. He recently directed Toy Story 5. It's funny to think he started here, and I recently watched his $270 million John Carter picture.
Right. I still have never seen that one. That Andrew Stanton alone, I mean, when you say right out of college, cynically you could say Ralph Bakshi was doing it to save money. Like, you get hot guys right out of CalArts and they're like, oh, I get to work with Ralph Bakshi, wow. And so he can get cheap guys to do it. But anybody can hire cheap people, but I'd say the talent speaks for itself. That like Bakshi found the most talented cheap people out straight out of CalArts.
Yeah, he knew how to pick them. I'll say that. So we have Andrew Stanton. We also have Jeff Pigeon. So he's another instrumental Pixar guy. He's never directed a movie for the company, but he's been a story artist and writer for many of their features, and he is also the voice of the aliens in Toy Story. And they tell a lot of stories about Ralph Bakshi. Believe it or not, he is a crazy character, and he always was. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like Jeff Pigeon was the only one of the guys whose name he remembered, so he would get the most attention.
Jeff, for some reason, he could only remember the name Jeff. Well, I guess Pigeon's pretty memorable.
It was mostly Pigeon, yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
So easy to remember. So we have Jeff Pigeon. We also have Rich Moore. We've talked a lot about Rich Moore, but Simpsons, supervising animator, director of The Critic and Futurama, and then director of Wreck-It Ralph and Zootopia. So enough said. Also, Bruce Timm. We've talked a lot about him on this network. Wow. Batman the Animated Series. You know who Bruce Timm is. Why do I have to explain this?
If it wasn't for Andrew Stanton's name earlier, I'd say Bruce Timm might be the Crickfaloozy too. I hate to John K. F him, but it's hard to say like who had the most impact of these guys. Like Bruce Timm, very up there, and he has been consistently working the Bruce Timm in the superhero cartoons to today. Mm-hmm. Still now has been doing it.
We also have Lynn Naylor. So she's done so much stuff over the years, but she is really credited for inventing the hot cartoon babe as we know her today.
Yeah, who are very much on display in this. It was another thing from the Sick Little Monkeys book that it blew my mind that Lynn Naylor, she did for reasons that suck, that she didn't get to have much of the press that the boys got on Ren and Stimpy back in the day. So you never heard as much about her. And to know that like she designed the hot ladies that people thought of as like the John K girls for a time. Some of the extras, they are much more clear of saying her name. I did notice, at least in the version that got uploaded, I didn't see Lynn Naylor's name in the credits. I was looking for it. It's she is uncredited on this cartoon.
That's strange because on the commentary they give her a lot of credit for the first sequence and the amazing babes in that one. So we also have Istvan Majoros, who was I believe Hungarian immigrant. So I pulled his name out because they talk a lot about him on the commentary and his contributions to the show. But also, if you listen to Simpsons commentaries, I think they mention Istvan's name at least once per episode for the first, 10 seasons and beyond, because he was an instrumental layout artist for the show. Anytime there's a great drawing, David Silverman would be like, oh, Istvan did that. And unfortunately, he passed away, I believe, in 2023. We talked about him on Talk to the Audience, but he is one of those guys. He never directed a Simpsons or anything. He never really became a director, but all the funny drawings you like, so many of them are because they came out of his pen.
Yeah, he was like a very high level for years layout artist on Simpsons. Sounded like a very in demand one. Silverman was smart to get him on stuff as much as he could. And yeah, it's a memorable name that is probably why hearing it enough times on commentaries, like say Paul Wee as well is another one that's like, oh, I hear that name enough on commentaries, I know. But to know that Ishvan also came out of it was almost certainly like hired on Simpsons, partially from being known as his great work on Mighty Mouse.
Yeah, actually, we are about to cover Bart's comment as of this recording, and he comes up on that commentary too, Isfan.
That's right.
So, yeah, definitely a name that you should be remembered because he just has done so much work over the years. Also, I can't cover everybody, but future Spumco people like Jim Smith, Jim Gomez, and Ron Hugard. So that, there's just there's like 20 key people to the future of animation on this show.
No, yeah, on the credits for this, there were 3 others. I was like, whoa, because it was Ron Hugard, who has been directing. He's on the credits for this episode, who's been the lead director on American Dad for the entire series and was a big-time Ren and Stimpy guy. And then there's Steve E. Gordon, he also draws his own hot ladies. He was like the animator for Hollywood in Cool World, and he was also like the lead animator on X-Men Evolution. And lastly, Vicky Jensen, the co-director of Shrek, was also on Mighty Mouse too. It's crazy, right?
I missed her name, but yeah, everybody went on to do stuff. And I think the only reason that David Silverman, Wes Archer, and Bill Kopp aren't working on the show is because at the exact same time this is in production, that is when the Simpsons shorts are starting on Tracy Ullman. So that's spring of 87. This show begins in fall of 87. They'd all be hired for this show if not for Klasky Chupo.
They must have all been like at the same, ribald animator parties in 1987, with them talking about their Klasky Chupo days, while meanwhile the Bakshi guys are chatting with them over drinks. To be in your 20s, and these guys are all like their early 20s, mid 20s.
This is a very messy show, and it's because everyone in charge is like barely out of their teenage years. So the series immediately gets 13 episodes, and John Kricfalusi is essentially in charge as the senior director, and the crew splits into 4 teams that mostly work independently on their own cartoons. He really wanted to revive the Warner Brothers structure of making cartoons, and this is insane for the time. You are drawing storyboards, they're getting sent to Korea, you're hoping what comes back is arable. That's usually what the cartoon landscape was like in the 80s.
Yeah, we talked about like Muppet Babies or other ones from the early 80s that you pay the cheapest writers you can find in Hollywood to churn out the 26 or 65 scripts you need, and then you get them back. You make as crude a storyboards as possible, and then you send them overseas and hope that Japanese animators will have enough pride in their work to make them look good.
Yes.
And then it comes back.
Hopefully they know how to make Animal walk across the room in his little diaper.
Yes, yeah.
But yes, Mighty Mouse, true, was an existing IP, and CBS had to accept scripts before they were allowed to go into production. But the New Adventures made baby steps into the world of creator-driven cartoons because Kricfalusi encouraged the artists to go off-script and add their own visual gags whenever possible. That is a big no-no everywhere else. But we are moving to the era in which the artists are able to have freedom by making funny drawings, which that used to be how it worked. We're in the era now in the 80s where no, you draw what's in the script and that's it. These are script-driven cartoons.
Because it just became such a machine, and it's sad to look at the history of TV animation that like it becoming a machine that's just a script first and then make a boring storyboard to that. Like Hanna-Barbera, who were great board-driven guys at first, their machinery was part of that. The HB factory led to that situation.
And notably for this cartoon, all of the layout drawings were done in the States. So the layout drawings are the key, most important drawings that the entire cartoon is based on, and the in-between stitch those drawings together. I'm not sure if this was the first TV cartoon to do this, but it probably was one of the first. And this became common until we get to the point where now it's not very common anymore. I feel like only legacy shows are able to do this, and they're barely getting away with it. But this is the beginning of, no, we do our layouts in the West. And then these are the instructions we send to overseas. So the they're given like way more instructions because there's way more guidance. So it's why even as messy as this is, this is still, for the time, a very fun-looking show with so many unique drawings.
I would put it up against anything that was put out in 1987 for like funniest cartoons.
Yeah, in terms of just like how they look. Even if some drawings are a little sketchy, literally and figuratively, you were not getting cartoons that were about showing you funny drawings. You're getting cartoons that are saying, well, we sent the models to Korea and they better not change anything about them. This character better be 8 heads tall or our heads will roll.
Yes, yeah. And they all have to look like their toy or else Mattel will get angry.
Yes. And with this freedom, though, came a lot of pain because crunch mode was constant. These are all very young people. And they're also dealing with 2 mercurial egomaniacs at the top of the chain. So you have Ralph Bakshi, who I guess the story with Ralph Bakshi is if you work on a production with him, you are fired every 2 to 3 weeks and then rehired. And Kent Butterworth, another early Simpsons guy who didn't make it, he says that working with Ralph is like being on the genius asshole roller coaster, where like one moment you're a genius, the other moment you're an asshole and fired. Again, you're a genius. So I feel like John Kay already has like personality disorder problems, but I think he gets his mentor style from Ralph Bakshi because John Kay was the protege of Bakshi.
Yeah, John Kay has a lot of bad tendencies before he comes to Hollywood, but then he's taken under the wing of Bakshi, who his mercurial's the nice way to put it, but he does seem to be like he's interviewed in that bonus feature from the old DVD, and they are having fun telling stories, but several are saying like he'd be a different guy on Monday versus Friday, and he'd be where's nice Ralph?
Yeah.
Where's nice Ralph?
And everybody on that special features DVD extra, they all do their own Ralph Bakshi impression. Like everybody has stories about Ralph and the crazy things he did, and there are stories on the commentaries. And then if you watch the Ren and Stimpy reboot adult party cartoon, and you shouldn't, the cartoon Fire Dogs 2 is basically what is it like to work for Ralph Bakshi? That's essentially what that entire cartoon is, because Ralph Bakshi kind of stars as himself as the fire chief, and Ren and Stimpy have to deal with him, mostly taking a lot of poops.
But though it's worth mentioning too that like guys, while you could say John Kay learned bad lessons or bad structure of how to like run a studio like a hyper controlling asshole to people, you know, Bruce Timm, from all reports, other guys like Bruce Timm or Jim Reardon or Rich Moore, they didn't learn that from Ralph Bakshi. Like nobody has said like, oh yeah, like Ralph Bakshi, they get yelled at all the time on their productions too under those other guys who learned from him.
Yeah, and I also feel like John Kay did not get the taste of power he did with Ren and Stimpy, which really made him go even crazier, because with Ren and Stimpy, he was tying up production because everything had to be perfect in his style. He would make artists draw things over and over and over again and take over scenes for himself when he was unhappy. In this case, he was able to get 13 episodes out the door, which is insane for any John Kricfalusi project. Look at anything after Ren and Stimpy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's Bakshi didn't seem, for all of his problems, they did not seem to be like extreme perfectionism or also, I mean, it does seem a little like a cult of personality from the reports you read, but not like what John Kay wanted at Spumco or every other place he ran after that.
And the young staff actually hated Mighty Mouse as a character, which is why the show really isn't about him. About half of the show is Mighty Mouse stories. The other half are what else can we do with this world? And that's exactly what's happening with this episode we're covering today. It is an Alvin and the Chipmunks parody that Mighty Mouse kind of wanders in and out of occasionally.
Yeah, he is I mean, he's not an interesting guy. Mighty Mouse as his character. He's a guy with long eyelashes who just says no. No, actually, that was me doing Dudley Do Right. It wasn't that kind of no.
Same basic guy though. So yes, this kind of fits the old vibe of the shorts though, because like I said, the shorts largely about other characters. A disaster happens, Mighty Mouse arrives, and that's the end of the cartoon. So in a way, they're really staying on brand with Mighty Mouse. And ultimately, I will say the show is a mess, but it is an important mess. And I would not go into this expecting something like Ren and Stimpy or Tiny Toons or The Simpsons. But you can definitely see how this led to those other more important shows, or more entertaining shows, rather, and how it's so different from everything around it. And I will say that it seems like the overseas people let them down. But to be fair to them, they were not ready to animate anything like this. And the same goes for Ren and Stimpy Season 1 and The Simpsons Season 1. And that kind of necessitated the creation of Rough Draft Korea. to figure out how to make these visually expressive shows in a way that the Korean animators were not used to making. They were used to being on the assembly line. So I'm trying to not be unfair to them, but they had to be taught, like, we want these to look good. So you're allowed to break the model sheets if we do. It's okay.
Yes. That Greg Vanzo, his brother and his wife, his Korean wife, like they at Rough Draft, they identified this problem working on Ren and Stimpy and other things, and they realized, well, if we could move to Seoul and build the studio ourselves, then we could oversee it, and there could be more of a level of trust and easier localization of the production efforts too. And it's also what led a previous What a Cartoon guest, Bob Jakes, also to get his TV animation business going too.
Yes, he's part of this as well. I forgot to mention Bob Jakes, but we'll talk about him when we talk about this episode of this cartoon. So yes, we needed Rough Draft. I mean, TMS did a great job. They were very expensive, but for as much as they did a great job on superhero stuff, they were also very, very good at cartoony stuff like Tiny Toons and Animaniacs and so on. So, but not everybody could afford TMS.
No, yeah, most you can slowly over time, if you look at TMS through the 80s, you can see them price out Deke, and then even Disney is like, can we just hire their guys? And then really only Warner, under the orders of Steven Spielberg, can afford TMS and get real TMS. But even by then, TMS was starting to realize, like, outsourcing can work for us too. Let's even open our own Korean studio and outsource to them.
We paid off our Little Nemo debts. Now we're going to profit from this.
Yep.
So this, again, the show is no Ren and Stimpy. Mighty Mouse gets away with gross drawings and subversive gags, I'll say, for this time period. But one in particular eventually got the show canceled in a way. It led to the cancellation. The show still persisted after this event. So you might have heard about this, but here are all the facts. So on October 31st, Halloween of 1987, the episode The Littlest Tramp aired. In this episode, a flower is crushed, turned into powder, and later in the episode, Mighty Mouse inhales the powder in order to remember the little girl who gave him this flower. It is... Of course, you're inhaling powder through your nose. You know what this means. Mighty Mouse is not putting it on a mirror, cutting it up with a razor blade, rolling up a dollar bill. He is just inhaling the flower powder. And side note, they knew what they were doing. They knew they were making this kind of a subversive joke. And I don't think they deserved to get in trouble, but they were playing with fire.
Yeah, though that's in the doc too, that they're saying, they go like, well, we did this a million times, like, and there was better stuff they could have got us for, but in the doc they are playing more innocent. I was like, no, they knew it. Him snorting powder up his nose to as a visual, that's part of the fun bad boy charm of a million jokes they did.
In the same documentary, Jim Reardon mentions that in this cartoon, The Littlest Tramp, a Kirk Douglas type falls in love with a little mouse, and they drive off into the sunset, and then they are exploded in a nuclear mushroom cloud. And CBS had no issue with that, but they pulled out this drug use joke. So this is in October of 87. The controversy does not happen until June of 1988, likely due to a rerun of this episode. So Donald Wildman, who was head of the American Family Organization, alleged that the cartoon depicted cocaine use and accused CBS of hiring a known pornographer to make a kids' cartoon. And hey, to be fair, the stuff that Bakshi did was bordering on pornography. I believe Fritz the Cat was X-rated, and it is kind of strange, knowing where Bakshi came from, to watch a Saturday morning cartoon and see the word Bakshi really big before each segment. They knew, like, this is a guy who the parents will know him from subversive stuff, so maybe they'll be okay with the kids watching it.
It is like the bad boyness was the fun of it for them. For CBS, I assume promoting it as a Ralph Bakshi production was part of the fun for them. Like, whoa, Ralph Bakshi does a cartoon, but yes, they seemed like they forgot they were living in the highly socially conservative Reagan 80s. And so by that point, though, I guess by 89, it's HW just continuing it. But yeah, it's that one, they were waiting for just one person who wants to get headlines to connect the dots, and it very easy to then spark a more moral panic out of that and get some headlines.
The show was never going to last more than 2 seasons, but they really could have avoided this because the editor at the time, the editor of the show, the guy putting it together, noted this gag and said, hey guys, this CBS is not going to like this. I know what kind of joke you're making, and this is not going to fly. And there was like a big battle behind the scenes, but eventually they left it in. So they could have avoided this, but thankfully they had a heads up on the controversy because the brother of season 2 producer Tom Klein had a job opening mail for senators, so he was clued in on this outrage campaign in advance. So Bakshi was able to get ahead of it. He was denying that they were making a drug joke. He was supporting free speech, but ultimately CBS made him remove these 3 seconds from the cartoon, and this was seen as an admission of guilt. So this is the big cocaine-sniffing Mighty Mouse controversy that you might have heard in various different versions, but this is what actually happened.
I recall going to Snopes in the aughts to discover, like, okay, what was he snorted cocaine in the cartoon? What happened? Like, this was before he could just stream it or YouTube or watch a YouTube video or listen to a podcast to get that explained.
Yeah, and they just have this footage on the DVD. They're not shy about hiding it. The gag can live on because the people who are buying the DVD are like 30 or 40, and we know the controversy has ended. So this happened in summer of '88. This did not get the show canceled. The show launched with the second season that fall. So you think if CBS really cared that much, they would say, all right, no more Mighty Mouse. But they realized that this was not going to be a long-term project. And also the show is experiencing brain drain. John Kricfalusi left to work on the even shorter-lived new Beanie and Cecil show for Bob Clampett. It looks like he took Eddie Fitzgerald, Jim Smith, and Bruce Timm with him on that project. So he was gone.
I can see why Kricfalusi on that, he took the same approach that Bakshi did. He's like, oh, I'll find an old thing, and I'll get Bob Clampett to agree to let me work on this. My favorite guy, Bob Clampett. And yeah, I do recall from reading multiple Bruce Timm interviews that this was where he decided to get off of the Kricfalusi train. He saw the what a cult it was and wanted out.
Yes, he made a wise move. By the way, Bob Clampett died in '84, so they were doing this like kind of in his memory, but it was a tribute to him. And I've never seen this. There's only 6 episodes, but again, it's one of these shows. Everybody you have ever known in animation has worked on this Beanie and Cecil show.
I remember seeing it again as a kid with no idea of its history other than just my mom reacting to it with, wait, Beanie and Cecil has a new show? I knew it was a show she knew from when she was my age, but that was all I knew about it.
So there was brain drain on the show. It was never a hit, and critical praise is what kept it alive. Critics loved the show. They recognized it as something way different than anything else that existed on Saturday mornings. Also helped that it was next to another really subversive show, Pee-wee's Playhouse, which, again, we have covered the Christmas special back in Christmas of last year. Check that out. But they feel like they should be sister shows. They're both drawing on boomer nostalgia and warping it in different ways.
If a Mighty Mouse classic didn't air from the King of Cartoons on Pee-wee's Playhouse, I would be surprised, honestly.
Yeah, because they own the cartoons, might as well just show it on there. So Mighty Mouse would then lose its time slot after Pee-wee, so that made the ratings even worse. And honestly, small orders of 4 to 10 episodes seem pretty common for a second season of a Saturday morning cartoon. You'd usually get 1, and if it was a big hit, they're like, okay, we'll give you 6 more, and then mix it into the rotation.
You had to be the biggest constantly selling toys hit to get more than that of the 13 episode orders. Like the biggest ones were, say, Turtles or He-Man or the biggest, like DuckTales, the biggest Disney afternoon ones. Those would reach their ends and then would actually get, new 13 or Smurfs. That would be another one.
And Real Ghostbusters too. That was an outlier as well.
Yes, yeah, but those, yeah, like you said, outliers out of dozens of cartoons that once they got to just 2 years, like look at almost every non-Smurfs Hanna-Barbera show was done in 1 or 2 seasons.
There are so many episodes of Smurfs, and I don't think we'll ever cover Smurfs. Maybe.
Maybe.
What do we have to say about Smurfs? I don't know. They were too popular. I grew up in like the downfall of Smurfs, I think. Like I was aware of Smurfs when I was seeing like Smurfs merch that older kids had or like older relatives had, but that was it.
Smurfs was a channel changer for me. My first thought, if I were to pick any Smurfs episode, it would be the one they eventually did do that was an adaptation of the first zombie comic of the Smurfs zombie story that happened. They adapted that eventually in the regular.
There's
Smurf
a zombie
cartoon.
Smurf cartoon?
Some say that it actually like predates the Night of the Living Dead, and it is like a basically, well, the Smurfs turn all black when they are exposed to some item. I forget what, but the magical item turns one into an evil Smurf, who then, when he bites another Smurf, it turns them into it too. Like it follows all of the zombie rules and zombie storytelling. It's if you see any headlines or like clickbaity articles of did Smurfs invent zombies, like that's what
this
it's
is going to be, and it's fascinating. So yeah, maybe we'll cover zombie Smurfs in the future. But yes, The New Adventures airs its final episode on October 22nd, 1988. And after a very brief stay on Fox Kids in late 92, it's been off TV for a very long time, only to return to the MeTV Toons channel as part of the Mighty Mouse and Friends package show. I believe that happened in 2025. So it's essentially, it was off TV for 30 plus years, and a DVD set was manufactured in 2010. That's long out of print.
I wish I had. I don't know how to get to MeTV, the MeToons stuff, but they are making cartoons, or they are programming for us. I do love that. About
Yes. I don't know if it's available in Canada, and I didn't have cable in America for a very long time. At least not like I had cable internet, but not cable TV. But I know if you have cable, MeTV Toons and MeTV, they're a great resource for cartoon preservation, and honestly, just a place that shows cartoons, which is hard to find now, especially these old cartoons.
Yeah, I think that was the venue I've heard people talk about. That's where the Looney Tunes are currently living right now on U.S. broadcast. After the Looney Tunes got delisted from HBO Max, now you can watch the classic Looney Tunes just on the free, the new version of ad-supported television.
It's very confusing. So the show does not get a third season. It only gets 6 episodes in its second season. And it seems like Ralph Bakshi is going to bounce back thanks to Nickelodeon, who was seemingly about to make his Tattertown series the first Nicktoon. But thanks to a lackluster pilot and the Mighty Mouse controversy, Nickelodeon backed out of a 39-episode deal. And all that resulted from it was the special Christmas in Tattertown, which aired in December of '88, right after this show went off the air. So if you want to check out what that's about, the YouTube account Pop Arena has a great little video about that sums up what that is and why it did not become a series. And I'd recommend any of Pop Arena's videos. They're also great.
The entire Knickknacks thing is full of great history. They are heading towards their Ren and Stimpy one. They at the time of recording, they just released their Doug episode and then a general Nicktoons 1, 2. Like just so much great history in the Knickknacks content on the Pop Arena channel.
Yes. So I don't think we'll ever cover Christmas in Tattertown. I didn't even like it as a kid, but it is interesting at least. Nickelodeon was correct. I don't see how that is going to translate into an entire 39 episode series to kick off this new kind of cable cartoon for the network.
It's just like depressing and mean and too said in the past. I think I last watched it or watched bits of it when preparing for that Cool World episode we did, because it's kind of proto Cool World. Like multiple characters that are in Tattertown basically appear in Cool World and get redone for.
Yeah, there's like some spider guy I remember in Tattertown. I remember I watched Tattertown when it first aired because it was a big deal for a cable network to have an original cartoon in 1988.
Yes. It was. They played it as very special, like as to just have a new cartoon that they promoted to you as, no, this is brand new, not admitting like, we play Inspector Gadget all the time on Nickelodeon, but it's not new. Like you probably know, kids.
And we know you're sick of it. At least I was. I was so sick of Inspector Gadget. God, I'm happy Nicktoons came around. So is there anything else worth mentioning, Henry, before we move on to our discussion of the episode?
Well, the Wendy's toys. I did have the Wendy's toys as a kid, too.
Wendy's put out 4, let's call them toys, but I guess they could be toys. As much as anything could be a toy. They're these little suction cup figures that include Mighty Mouse, Scrappy, Bat, and Petey Pate. Bat is another hero in the universe, and Petey Pate is kind of the first villain you see, and I like him because he is like a crazy Ren and Stimpy style character who sounds like Kirk Douglas, but he's an odd choice for that collection of figurines.
Yeah, I definitely had Petey Pate and Mighty Mouse, and remember playing with them and fighting with them, having them fight as a toy boy. Again, not getting the comedy of it at the time, but just enjoying them as toys. And as we've covered before, my mom was a very dedicated collector of Happy Meal merchandise, and so when other fast food places had their competing Happy Meals and their toys, she wanted to collect those too, and so we ended up getting those.
Now I'm looking at this now. Okay, there's a few more. I'm seeing there's Pearl Pure Heart. And the crazy thing about these, maybe it's not crazy, none of these went up in value. These original
Yes.
Happy Meal Wendy's toys pack-ins. So you can get Petey Pate and Pearl Pure Heart for $10. And I just might because I like Petey Pate's design. It's a very Spumco-y design.
Well, and you're not going to get any other toys of this specific version of Mighty Mouse, or really any Mighty Mouse toys probably will ever exist again.
No, I really doubt it. So yeah, these are all in the original packaging too. You know what? I might make a purchase just to be very weird.
Even and you know what? It's crazy too. I guess looking back on it, the Mighty Mouse kind of starts this. Well, not it starts. They were always bringing back old cartoons way before Mighty Mouse, but this, you know, satirical looking backwards Gen X vision of it, that's what feels like new on this. And then so many's came afterwards that were like, oh, this is the Ren and Stimpy look at an old property. But then Mighty Mouse never gets to come back around again for another go at it. Like this was it for Mighty Mouse.
You know, I think that's fine because, again, not to be too mean, I think Mighty Mouse stinks, the character, and it was just an IP sandbox for very talented people to play in, and then they got to play in much better sandboxes after this. So I feel like there is nothing to salvage from the Mighty Mouse brand, but these guys made the most of it by making a cartoon that wasn't really about Mighty Mouse.
It had the luxury of being made in a pre-internet time where they didn't have to worry about fans of, say, Thundercats being mad that this thing wasn't like the Thundercats they remembered. If anybody was offended that Mighty Mouse wasn't like their childhood Mighty Mouse, you never heard about it from anywhere serious.
They didn't need to put in a reference to the supermarket for the big fans out there. All this deep lore.
Though I appreciate that deep lore and other things, but with Mighty Mouse, not so much.
Mm-hmm, same here. Well, that is it for this history segment now. We're going to come back after the break, but until then, we're going to sit very still like Andy Kaufman as we listen to the Mighty Mouse theme song.
Here he comes, that mighty mouse, coming to vanquish the foe with a mighty blow. So don't be afraid anymore, 'cause things won't be like they've been before. Here I come to save the day. Thank goodness Mighty Mouse is on his way. So let the trumpet players play, for Mighty Mouse is here today. Here he comes, that Mighty Mouse, just like a bolt from the blue, with a heart that's true, fighting evil, fighting crime, and always there in the nick of time. Here he comes to save the day, and he will prove that crime will never pay. So let the trumpet players play, for Mighty Mouse is here today.
That call must be for me. Mighty Mouse here. One moment. You can call me too at 1-900-909-2233. Hear an exciting new adventure every day. Plus, I'll tell you how to get this poster, t-shirt, and sweatshirt. And part of your $2.45 2-minute call goes to help local science museums. So get your parents' permission and call 1-900-909-2233. Mouseville's in danger. I'm out of here. Here I come.
Mr. Trouble never hangs around when he hears this mighty sound.
Here I come to save the day.
That means that Mighty Mouse is on the way. Yes, sir, when there is a wrong to right, Mighty Mouse will join the fight. On the sea or on the land, he gets the situation well in hand.
So though we are in danger, we never despair, 'cause we know that where there's danger, he is there.
He is there on the land, on the sea, in the air. We're not worrying at all. We're just listening for his call.
Here I come to save the day.
That means that Mighty Mouse is on the way.
So we're back to talk about Mighty's benefit plan, and there's a very long and complicated origin to this episode that is told to us by John Cristofalusi on the commentary. I take all of his stories with a grain of salt. I think he likes exaggerating a lot. He's also a liar. But I will say this seems true. So here's the thing. On the surface level, obviously, this is a parody of Alvin and the Chipmunks. You have Elwee and the Tree Weasels. There is a Dave Seville character with Sandy Bottomfeeder. But it goes a lot deeper than that. So let me explain. It goes to a very personal level, which I find very funny. So these guys are really axe grinding on this episode. So John and a few other notable artists are doing development work on a show called Ralph Playhole, which I assume was going to be like a Ralph Bakshi variety show. Perhaps it's for kids, perhaps it's for adults. I don't know. That's just what he says. And they happen to be working next to the studio animating the Chipmunk Adventure. So that was the animated film that was made based on the 80s Chipmunk series, Alvin and the Chipmunks, the one that we grew up with.
Yeah. It someday I'd like. That's another on my list of like that'd be a good one to cover someday because we taped it off of, I want to say it's an HBO tape off, but it was one I watched a ton as a kid. Those versions of the songs, like when I think of the song Wooly Bully, I think of the one sung by the Chipmunks in that, not the original one.
When I think of the Beatles, I think of the Chipmunks performing all of their songs.
And,
yeah, this is the one that we grew up with. And also, when I watched this as a kid, I did not know the Chipmunks were an old property. It wasn't until the Nickelodeon show Wienerville came on TV that I realized, oh, they're showing 60s Chipmunk cartoons. This was an older thing. I wasn't aware of it. I knew of the, Christmas Don't Be Late song, but I didn't know there was a cartoon back then.
Yeah, I also was unaware that the 80s Chipmunks were a big throwback, like a 20-year-old property, which would now be like bringing back Avatar: The Last Airbender in time frame.
Who would do that?
Yeah.
Oh, they're doing it multiple times?
Yeah,
okay.
I like and also the Chipmunk Adventure movie, that was very lucky to have a number of great Disney animators had open schedules for the time and could animate on it. Dan Haskett is the most famous of them, I think, who animated on it. There's some really great animation that has to completely break the character models of the Chipmunks for them to dance in a sequence that Haskett and others animated.
They just kind of become people. And yeah, the animators working on that are amazing. They're wasted on the Chipmunk Adventure, I'll say that much. It's not a great movie, and it's not a great project to just spend all that talent on, I'll say.
Yeah, though the well, that also like that's to then know that this episode was so pointed at the people who wasted that talent in charge of the Chipmunks is very funny.
Yeah, so the Bakshi crew, it sounds like they're sharing office space or like working in the same building with the Bagdasarian crew. So Bagdasarian, that is the family that owns the Chipmunks. And it really annoyed John Kricfalusi that they were draining all of the humor and cartooniness out of the Chipmunks. Of course, John Kay, he's a boomer. He loves all that boomer garbage, even though it is not very well animated. Despite that, he really loves it. So he thought, oh, man, they're ruining the Chipmunks, is what he would say in his gruff voice. Yeah. And there was also a rivalry between Ralph Bakshi and the Bagdasarians because apparently the Bagdasarians' tiny dog Tiger Lily would invade the Bakshi offices and just shit all over the place. So this is why John Kay and Bob Jakes, who we've had on What a Cartoon, they go out to lunch. They pitch this idea to each other. They love it. They go back, pitch it to Bakshi. They think he won't do it, but he does. He gives it the thumbs up. And then the little dog who shit everywhere, Tiger Lily, was eventually run over in the parking lot, which is why we get Mashy the dog in this cartoon, a loving homage to a beloved dog who was killed not far from where they were working. So it's very mean.
It's so mean. It's so pointed and direct for a thing nobody but the biggest nerds would know. At that time, you would have had to worked in the industry to know what that was about, or maybe read one of two animation magazines. Then maybe you know that. But the Tiger Lily, the dog, I think was like it also is a character in the Chipmunk Adventure movie. Like it's the pet of the villains of the movie.
Oh, really?
Too.
Okay, I didn't know this element either. So the real life Tiger Lily is in the Chipmunk Adventure and in this Mighty Mouse episode as Mashy.
Yeah, it's they really love that dog. I mean, it's funny too to think of the Bagdasarian Ross Bagdasarian Jr. being such a dog lover of his little toy pet, that a little toy dog who I feel bad that died. That's sad, but that he puts it in everything, and then they make fun of him putting it in everything.
Put that thing on a leash, please, everybody. Get your dog on a leash. So yes, ultimately John Kay was annoyed by the lack of cartooniness in this new series, and he really wanted to explore why a guy like Dave Seville would adopt 3 animals. Mostly because the 80s series took this premise very seriously. The 80s series is very sappy. There's a lot of pathos, and John Kay wanted to make fun of all the sappy pathos in that cartoon version of the Chipmunks. And also, thanks to Thad's book, it turns out Bob Jakes worked on the Chipmunk Adventure, did not get credit. He was jaded about that. So it's like all of these kinds of revenge at once funneled into one cartoon. That was shown to me in UNH5.
That was wonderful. Like, to know that it comes from the axe grindingness, like it is so fun. Like that, and yeah, when he mentions to talk about the tone of the Chipmunk show, like it could, because it wasn't allowed to be funny as they made fun of it 80s cartoons then, that instead it had like the Mother's Day special where the Chipmunks meet their mother and they find out that they do have a mom, and it's all in the Chipmunks movie has an entire like I miss my mother orphan song in it. Like it has a sad song too.
I just remember that being, a very sappy cartoon that I liked, but a lot of it was Dave Seville is kind of like a single father, and he's very put upon, and the kids are the Chipmunks are his kids more than they're his performers. But in this case, the warped funhouse mirror is Dave Seville is holding these children hostage, and it's really messed up, and they're just trying to placate him so he doesn't kill them in himself.
It's a sick, horrifying man in the mode of a consistent thing in Ren and Stimpy is scary fathers.
Yes,
too.
yeah.
Yes.
I was going to say that, Henry. That's my next point. This is another John Kay cartoon, his favorite kind of cartoon. What if a scary father figure might kill you? And a lot of comedy comes out of that. I love everything he's done with the premise, but he had an abusive father that he kind of loved, and that funneled down into his brain so deep that everything he makes is based on that premise.
If I didn't know that background, I would think they were taking it from the father who ran the Beach Boys, perhaps, of like from a similar era of the Chipmunks.
Murray Wilson, I think his name was.
Murray Wilson, yes, right, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess we'll get to Sandy Bottom Feeder soon, but I guess whoever did the voice acting for him in this episode, we'll cover some voice actors soon, but whoever did the voice acting originally did a more sinister read, and maybe CBS didn't like it, or maybe they thought it would go too far, so they make Sandy Bottom Feeder have like a friendlier voice, but to me it just makes him more sinister, like he's putting on an act for the public, and behind the scenes he's abusing these chipmunks. Or sorry, tree weasels.
It does make it, it actually makes it more sinister, I think, than if he was just like, you kids better do, like if he was just straight up mean. Instead, he takes on the act of many horrible people who treated their, famous children poorly. I am almost certain that the voice of Sandy is Bo Weaver, because we covered him on, he played Reed Richards in the 1994 Fantastic Four cartoon, and I'm pretty sure it's him. Yeah.
And, I was watching a few episodes of this cartoon for research, and I thought, Ren and Stimpy is a step beyond this. And the 90s gross-out cartoons are a step beyond this, but I'm still surprised they're able to get away with this intense, troubling relationship on a cartoon like this that aired at 10:30 in the morning in 1987. It is shocking to me, and I'm thinking, no wonder this stuck with me. Nothing would be like this until Ren and Stimpy. So I had to sit with this in my brain for 4 years until I saw something else that was even remotely similar.
You man, to see it right after Pee-wee like that, it is such a boon to the show. Like if Pee-wee hadn't been a hit, I can't imagine this would have been greenlit. It wouldn't have had a place on the schedule. Like to be able to go after Pee-wee, it fits perfectly as an hour.
It is a perfect block here. And then we kick things off with the theme song, which is an a cappella arrangement of the original theme. The lyrics are somewhat different. I think it's an earworm. I listen to it every time, and I will tell everybody out there, I recently had a flu. It might have been COVID. And whenever I get a flu, one of the side effects is I get loopy, and the same lyrics run through my brain over and over, like the same phrases from certain songs. And a phrase from this song was running through my head for about 3 days, thanks to my fever. So I will never forget the New Adventures of Mighty Mouse song as long as I live.
I love it. I love it too. It's a great. I mean, here I come to say the classic version of Andy Kaufman is bored into my brain too. In this watch, the lyric that stuck with me the most was "Things won't be like they've been before."
Yes, that is it. So don't be afraid anymore. Yeah. That those two chunks of lyrics were just like looping through my feverish brain for about 3 days.
And it's their way of saying, like, this is a postmodern cartoon. That's their wink there. Like, things won't be how they've been before. This is funny and weird, not like the classic Mighty Mouse cartoons you have to remember.
And it is just a series of clips, but not uncommon back then. And also, I don't trust this group of scrappy animators to get enough footage together to make an original opening that can look better than the show they're presenting. Ren and Stimpy never had an opening in 6 years.
Yeah. Clip. I am always sad to see a clip show opening, but it does come down to a budget thing. Like, there's just not, and this show is barely able to exist with the lowest paid, talented newcomer staff they could get, who don't yet know their worth. So I understand why it's a clip show, and they find as many good clips as they can that can also explain the premise out of the very few episodes they would have had to pull clips from too.
Yes, it's very funny that every clip involves Mighty Mouse, but he is such a small part of the show. So it's kind of lying to you up front, because you see Mighty Mouse in the front, and then it takes like 3 to 5 minutes to get to him in this episode.
They have to basically blow the story of one episode where some cat figures out a secret identity just to even show you he has a secret identity, folks. Watch him change into his costume and out of it.
So we don't get original title card art, but we do get some big Bakshi branding up front. I think it says Bakshi Animation really big, and then the title of the cartoon, right?
Yes, yeah. And that repeated title card thing, that is so the art design of Ren and Stimpy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's so many art design touches in there. Like, God, this is exactly Ren and Stimpy.
And we open here, not with Mighty Mouse, but we open at Conquest Malts, a kind of sinister boomer era piece of iconography, because it's a malt shop, but it's called Conquest Malts, and the logo is a moon with the American flag stuck in it. So, like, we are taking over.
Yeah, I do love seeing them make. I mean, it feels easy to make fun of now, but to think back on, like, these guys grew up with in the Red Scare era of the 50s and 60s, but also then grew up to be the hippies, like, or the younger brothers of hippies, that they get to make fun of all of the oldie time American xenophobia that was reignited under Reagan too.
Mm. And yes, we go to this malt shop and we see a bunch of 60s style teeny boppers bopping along to the Elwee and the Tree Weasel song Twitch and Writhe. And I have a clip of the song, and it's a great song. But I do want to note that I think it's about 90 seconds to 2 minutes of pure funny drawings, which was never going to happen on Saturday morning. You were not going to start your cartoon with 2 minutes of kind of narrative-free funny drawing. So it's just the sexy babes watching this music video, and then cutting to the music video, and like all the gags that come out of that. And it's amazing. This might seem primitive now, but nothing else like this was ever happening on television on Saturday mornings.
It is incredible to watch it. It as you put it that way, it almost sounds as transformative as the Beatles singing "Twist and Shout" on Ed Sullivan that this is a parodying.
This was our Twist and Shout, which is why they could only film Elwee and the Tree Weasels above the crotch. But
God. Yeah, no, the song rules. The song just rules.
Yeah, it's called Twitch and Writhe, which is also one of those songs where they teach you how to do the dance. But in this case, it's like you're having like a fit on the floor, because you just you drop to the floor and start writhing around.
It's that, I mean, to the Lynn Naylor drawings of all these cute young girls, like, it then gets even funnier when, while they still are cute drawings, they're in crazy poses as they twitch and writhe as they're instructed to.
And like bouncing on their tongues and wiggling their butts. Like, this gets a little sexy for Saturday mornings. And there's a few things I wanted to call out here. There's one bit of the music video where they basically run across the world, the three tree weasels, across a backdrop of many notable world locations. That is a direct parody of the Chipmunk Adventure, which was a around the world in 80 days kind of riff.
I had until hearing the commentary, I had no clue that was another swipe at Chipmunk's Adventure. That's a great extra joke there.
And they pay particular attention to one Lynn Naylor babe who is in a pink sweater. She's got short hair. I guess she was based on Ralph Bakshi's secretary at the time, but she is making out with Elwee, the leader of the Tree Weasels. Although he looks more like Simon than Alvin, I'll say.
Yeah, there's the fat one is easy. Like, okay, that's Theodore, duh. But yes, Simon and Alvin's counterparts get kind of mixed up there. Other than, I guess, well, the dumb one is as dumb as Simon is smart, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Yeah, I mean, we made a lot of Ren and Stimpy comparisons, but I think this cartoon also looks a ton like Tiny Toon Adventures.
Oh man, the tongue bounce on your tongue bit, that is straight out of a Tiny Toons cartoon too. Yeah,
it's like a weird marriage between Tiny Toons and Ren and Stimpy, because the people would go walk different paths after this show, and we could see like what they were able to do when they worked together. So
and come to hate each other
yes,
on the different shows.
To make fun of each other via their own cartoons. So the first, like I said, 90 seconds is purely visual. Let's hear a bit of Twitch and Writhe.
Switch it up, switch it up, switch it up, weasel. Switch and ride. Come on, weasel. Switch and ride. Ride a little closer now. Switch and ride. Drop to the floor. Twitch real crazy now. Switch and ride. Twitch and ride. Twitch and ride. Watch me twitch. Hey, hop on your tongue. Have some fun. Number one. You're number one. Twitch and ride.
Sounding a lot like Do You Love Me, which is fitting because I think 87 is also the year of Dirty Dancing.
Oh, right.
That's a big song in Dirty Dancing.
Man, the 80s were so much about remembering the 50s and early 60s. Like that was, and hey, we're forcing kids to never forget about the 80s now. So we're just as bad.
Every day is Ready Player One now.
Yeah. Now, God, yes, the song is great. Every crazy pose is great. The background coloring, there's also like, not just in the backgrounds, but occasionally you'll see the colored outlines of characters, like it's not a black outline of a character, it's the like color stencils that also really remind me of Ren and Stimpy style animation too. Like it's got so much. Is this where they figured out they liked doing this and wanted to keep it going in their future works?
Yeah, I feel like this is just baked into a lot of their personalities, expressing their art in this way, in this very kitschy, old-timey way, and it would factor into other shows in the future. And I like how it's subtle or perhaps unsubtle that as you watch more of this cartoon, you learn that Twitch and Writhe is their only song. And whenever they're performing, it's some different version of it. I think on the staff of the show, they only wanted to write one song, but also that was able to factor into a joke about how this is a very one-note band, or in this case, one-song band.
Twitch and Writhe, right? Yeah. You mentioned too, like the weird little guy making out with the sexy lady. Like that's like 800 Spumco cartoons too, or music videos also.
Yeah, because it reminds me a lot of like later things John Kay would make, like Jimmy the Idiot Boy and Roxy. It's just like a very dumb-looking guy. I'm sure he would use another word for it at the time and probably now. And then also like a hot babe who is his girlfriend.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the Bjork music video that he'd direct too, that one is a similar thing.
It's crazy that Bjork video is a Trojan horse for Jimmy the Idiot Boy. It's introducing America to that character.
Oh, and what a great use of that too for him. Yeah, no. Well, then eventually it would go where it could only end up, which is just straight up doing porn with those types of girls in a in a John Kay cartoon.
On the commentary, they called out Kent Holiday, who wrote this song, and he was not part of the creative staff. He was the track reader of this show, which I guess is essentially lip sync, because someone's got to do it. And it seems like Kent Holiday was a very notable lip sync guy in animation, because notably he worked on shows like Ren and Stimpy, Duckman, The Critic, and The Simpsons, where he worked for over a decade. And he passed away in 2001, so I'm guessing fairly young, but somebody has to do lip sync on these shows, and I guess he was very good at it and worked on a lot of really notable programs.
That's impressive. That has to be a very specific job and skill set. So to be the one for Simpsons and Duckman and Ren and Stimpy, you got to be one of the best.
Yeah. I'm not sure about what else he's done, but that was his life for a very long time in animation. So we were at the malt shop, Conquest Malls. With one last Twitch and Writhe lyric, we get a screen shatter transition. Then a beatnik VJ reminds viewers that this was an Elwee and the Tree Weasel song, and they're going to be playing a benefit concert tonight at the Mouseville Orphanage. Mouseville, of course, is the place where this Mighty Mouse cartoon takes place. And we see young Scrappy the orphan watching at home. He runs out to buy tickets, and we cut to the box office where the Tree Weasels concert, already sold out, But I guess Ralphie and the Mollusks tickets are still available if he wants to see them.
I mean, that has to be one of a million Ralph Bakshi references in there too. Then Ralphie and that would be Ralph Bakshi and the Mollusks.
Yeah, Ralph Bakshi, I mean, he is a cartoon character, and he shows up a lot in this cartoon.
It's also funny. I had forgotten the orphan mouse's name. That it just is Scrappy. Like that also feels like they shouldn't get away with that. Like making the annoying kid character who's funny in that they're being annoying is named even Scrappy seems like cheating.
Yeah, I get hung up on Scrappy, but that is his name. And he's upset about this. He says, "No, I'll never have any fun." And suddenly, this is when Mighty Mouse appears with his classic, "Here I come to save the day." And that's when he lands. And we can hear how he solves Scrappy's problems in our next clip.
Well, why the long face, little pal?
Gee whiz and goshy willikers. I wanted to see Elwee and the Tree Weasels, but the show sold out.
I'll tell you what, I know their manager, Sandy Bottomfeeder. Let's go meet the Tree Weasels in person. Well, if you don't want to go, I'll understand.
No, I want to go so bad I can taste it.
Well, then, let's hop along, Cassidy.
No, boys. Remember, this is a romantic ballad, so speed it up.
Why don't we take a break, Sandy?
Well, I don't know, boys. We've got a big night ahead of us. Look, guys, it's my old top sergeant, Mighty Mouse.
Sandy, you old coon dog, you. Give me the old secret handshake of the water weasels.
It is very funny how Elwee and the Tree Weasels have just regular guy voices.
Yes. God, because that joke, he's like, yeah, it's a love song. It's got to be a little faster. That implication is not only do they not talk like that normally, but for them to sound sped up, it is not actually speeding up or pitching up the music. It is forcing them through torturous practice sessions to sing that fast.
They normally aren't high pitched, and we could see Elwee is very sweaty and just very fatigued. So clearly, Sandy is working these kids.
Yes, the way it sounds. Why don't we take a break, Sandy? I could be wrong. I'm sure it is an uncredited animator. Maybe it's just that I've also been watching a few Andrew Stanton films where he does do voices, but if you hear that voice and compare it to Crush the Turtle, his most famous character, I think it does kind of sound like, I could be wrong, but I think it could be Stanton.
Yeah, you could be right. I mean, they were doing, I heard John Kay's voice on one episode, and I'm sure other people were chiming in, and also I found out that Andrew Stanton did a voice in Bring Me the Head of Charlie Brown. Rich Moore's in that. Andrew Stanton plays the Great Pumpkin.
Oh, right. Okay. I did not know that he was the Great Pumpkin. I know that Linus, another guy, there was like one guy who I didn't want to be mean to him, but I wrote down his name, Nate Naffer, who's on the credits for this. That it's like, oh, he had a fine career as an animator, but he's one of the few that didn't become a major person, and he was Linus in Bring Me the Head of Charlie Brown.
I have more to say about him because Sandy Bottomfeeder's design is kind of based on him. But yeah, Bring Me the Head of Charlie Brown, in case you forget, that is Jim Reardon's CalArts film, I believe, or just a student film, which is a very violent Charlie Brown parody, and everybody that we love is part of it, and it's very easy to watch online.
Back when it was very shocking to see the sweet characters of Charlie Brown doing violent things, which is what the entire internet was made out of in 1997.
And we could talk about a few voice actors here, the ones that we can identify. So, of course, it's none other than Dana Hill playing Scrappy. Nobody sounds like Dana Hill. Best known for playing Max on Goof Troop. Unfortunately, she did pass away very young at 32 in 1996 from complications from diabetes. So if you've heard one Dana Hill character, you've heard them all, but nobody sounded like her.
Yeah, she was. Was it the first Vacation movie? She's in one of the Lampoon Vacation films too.
Yeah, I think it's maybe the first and the second, or just the second.
It's funny hearing her great voice here as Scrappy, because around this time she was getting cast in this character is parodying the character she would be cast as, like legitimately, like Max Goof is basically this type of annoying side character. She was also like two characters like this in Tom and Jerry Kids. I love
her in Duckman. I'm glad she was able to do like a dirty cartoon before she passed away. And Patrick Pinney plays Mighty Mouse. So this is likely his most notable recurring role, though his claim to fame is one simple line, and that line is, "Are you ready, kids?" He's Penny the Pirate.
Wow. Wow. I did not know this.
Yeah.
That's pretty. Hey, that's all you ever need to do is just, if you're the voice of the SpongeBob SquarePants cartoon theme song, you don't need to do anything else in your life.
Of course, Stephen Hillenburg is the lips of that Penny the Pirate, but I have to assume Patrick Penny also sings the theme song because the voice that says, "Are you ready, kids?" is the same voice that sings the theme song.
Yeah, I got to believe that too. Yeah, that's man, that is impressive. Because I missed that when scanning his IMDb. Most of his other credits are like various voices and things, and or like as in like miscellaneous voices in a Toy Story here or there, or Cruel World. Like not many even named characters in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, he usually just is additional voices. That's usually what his credit is like. So back to the cartoon. So Mighty Mouse and Sandy exchange their secret handshake, and it's clear that Sandy Bottomfeeder is a little manic at this point. And I wanted to note the constant Cheerios in his mouth, which seems like a weird non sequitur gross out gag, but it's actually another reference to the Chipmunk adventure because there is some obvious product placement in that film. And one of the most obvious ones is the very realistic depiction of a box of Honey Nut Cheerios. So they're taking it even further by having his mouth constantly full of Cheerios. Every bit of dialogue, he's spitting out Cheerios. It must have been a nightmare to make sure this all tracked, this Cheerio animation.
And his character model is so off center. Like his ears are weird. His hair is weird. He never looks comfortable or normal. He is such a weird guy who's constantly coughing up Cheerios.
Yeah, he's got very droopy eyes and droopy ears. He's always bent over, sweating or crying or both. And you mentioned Nate Camphor. Well, his design is based on Nate Camphor, by the way. And this is according to John Kricfalusi. He said that Nate Camphor had a lopsided face and upside-down ears. So they based this character on him, and they called him Bottom Feeder because those fish are very lopsided when they're, like, spun around.
Though, man, him having that's also more SpongeBob there. Like, Bottom Feeder is the name of a character in that, too.
So I tried to find a picture of Nate Camphor, and I couldn't, so maybe he does look like Sandy Bottom Feeder. We'll never know.
I'm sure he's a handsome gent even to this day, as in his late animation career.
But he's not. You're right. Not to diss him or anything. But he's not super notable. It's hard to be notable when you're working with all of these other people. If you have just a normal animation career, you look pathetic.
Yes. Yeah. We've had, this is like the total inverse of sometimes where we cover say Laverne and Shirley Join the Army. That has like 3 names tops who worked on something that matters. In this, it's the complete inverse where 1 or 2 names are maybe somebody that I did not have instant name recognition seeing in the credits, at least for layout and writing.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So we meet Sandy Bottomfeeder. He pinches Scrappy's cheek. Scrappy is offended by this. He says, "Keep your hairless mitts to yourself." So this guy is already getting very touchy. Mighty scolds Scrappy, but Sandy tells him, "Oh, it's okay. The boys give me that kind of guff all the time." And he says, "Oh, you should meet them." So we're going to meet the Tree Weasels in our next clip.
The boys! Hey, you'll want to meet them. Hey, Elwee. Elwee? Hey, man, anything you say, okay? Okay, boys, shake hands with my new little friend here. Scrappy, I'd like you to meet my boys. This is Elwee. He's the mischievous one.
Scrappy is your biggest fan.
And this is Thicky. You'll like him. He's really fat. Say, where's... Oh, there you are. Gooby, come out of there. Don't mind Gooby. He's the shy, sensitive type. Well, little guy, how would you like 2 free tickets to see the Tree Weasels perform tonight?
Well, Scrappy, what do you think of Sandy now?
Oh, gee, Mighty, he's great. But, well, I got a question. What does he have to do with the Tree Weasels? I mean, he's not their pop, is he?
So Scrappy already weirded out by Sandy Bottomfeeder. And, yeah, like a really shocking joke is when we see Thicky, and he is so fat he can't stand up. And Sandy says, "You'll like him. He's really fat." His head is just sticking into the frame of this bloated creature.
He's so bloated that his fingers are like little nubs that stick out of like a hand that is so swollen it can't move.
Yeah.
Like it's it is a parody so perfect of the cute fat character that Theodore's only characteristic in the Chipmunks Adventure movie and most Chipmunks things is this little fatty loves his sweets. That's all he has in those.
And Sandy is selling these characters like they're being marketed. Like, here are their defining traits, and none of them are really true.
Yes,
except for Thicky being fat.
Well, and he says you'll love him. Like, that's. Bill, they already have something there of Scrappy going like, he's not their pops, is he? Like, who's weirded out at even thinking, what he's really saying is, did this guy have sex with a tree weasel?
Yes.
Like, that's what he's asking.
He's creeped out by the situation. Yeah, so we have Elwee, we have Gooby, I think his name is. He's like the classic idiot boy. He would evolve into Jimmy the idiot boy, but if you watch that Twist and Writhe music video, he's playing like a big piece of drool like it's a bass guitar.
Right, yes, yeah. He's picking at his drool like it is a bass, yeah.
And yes, Scrappy wants to know the lineage of these tree weasels, and Mighty is like swimming through the air. So a lot of this is also Powdered Toast Man. I was thinking of that.
Yes, yeah. The only problem is he's not flying backwards. That's the only that was the upping of it for Powdered Toast Man. Yeah, there's a ton of Powdered Toast Man in this too. That he also Powdered Toast Man loved helping innocent orphans too. And like you said, how they're trying to get the Mighty Mouse out of his own cartoon. When Scrappy asked Mighty Mouse how he's their pops, Mighty Mouse could easily be the guy who tells this story and be the narrator, but they shoved that away.
Yeah, he like flips over in the air to ponder this question. He flies off screen, and we push in on Roadkill, another shocking joke. And it peels itself off the pavement and introduces itself like, I'm Mashy the Pup. It's like a guy doing a falsetto voice. And yeah, this is a direct parody of the Bagdasarian dog and its horrible demise of being run over in a parking lot.
The CBS censors letting this get away at all is shocking. And I have to think if they knew this was a real dead dog they were making fun of, a freshly dead dog, couldn't have been dead for more than 2 years at this point.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have allowed this, I don't think.
I'm just thinking of like what my 5-year-old brain was processing. I'm seeing this abusive relationship. I'm seeing Roadkill peel itself off the street to talk to me. I don't know what I was thinking or like what was going on when I walked away from this cartoon.
No, if I even got that it was a Chipmunks parody, I mean, I probably, if I had known it was a Chipmunks parody, or really got that it was a mean one, I would have thought, oh, why do they hate the Chipmunks? That like later, a few years later, when I could tell The Simpsons was making fun of a thing I liked as a kid, like America's Funniest Home Videos, it did hurt my feelings. Like, wait, they're saying this thing is bad, but I like it.
Yeah, I would feel like a little bad sometimes. Like, well, you guys are being too mean to dinosaurs. Come on, it's a good show. Give it a chance.
It's smarter than you think, guys.
Mike Reese is just mad about it. Well, yes, Mashy takes over the story, weirdly enough, to tell us the incredible origin story of Elwee and the Tree Weasels. So this is when they're digging into how annoyed they are by the pathos of the Chipmunks in the 80s and how obvious it was, because we hear Mashy say, Sandy Bottomfeeder is a young man who was depressed. And then the dialogue is, I'm depressed. So they're just making it so obvious.
Yeah, I guess on the show, on the real show, they turned Dave Seville from just like the manager of Singing Rats to in the regular Alvin and the Chipmunks into kind of a Geppetto type figure who still is angry at Alvin, but is happy that the blue fairy of fate gifted him with children that he could not have as a lonely, pathetic man.
Yeah, and we see Sandy raking his lawn. He is very bent over. His neck in this drawing is, 3 feet long. They credit Bruce Timm with a lot of this scene, by the way. And yeah, this is another like brain melting thing in 1987 when you're watching this. The characters are just allowed to look as different as possible in every shot. As long as you can tell it's still the character, it's fine. Like everything was so rigidly on model in this decade that it was just fun to watch. Like, what will Sandy Bottomfeeder look like in the next scene? It's whatever artist is drawing this is going to decide that.
So many cartoons tried to find a way to not draw a mouth on characters or to repeat the same He-Man punch every episode. And here, every moment you see, every time you cut back to Sandy, he is in a different pose and a completely different look.
And we find out his fields are barren, which is a big metaphor here. We see him raking his lawn, and we see his various patches of vegetables. The seed pouch indicates what's growing below, and we see the baby seeds have failed to blossom. So he was trying to grow babies, and John Kay says on the commentary they wanted baby arms to be rising out of the ground, but CBS said no. So CBS said no to some things.
It's also shocking that like baby seeds, like come on, that's semen.
Yeah, that's cum. I think that you're right. This is a cum joke.
Yes, obviously he jizzed on the ground. That's also the joke they're getting. This did teach, like Bruce, I'm sure Bruce Timm learned a thing or two about how to get stuff by censors with this. Like they joke about it on some Batman commentaries for the cartoon show that they would include things that they knew would never be approved, that then when the censor cuts them, it makes the things they wanted to keep seem okay, and it would trick the censor.
Yeah, you put in little landmines that you know will never air, and then they'll be too worried about disarming those and not as worried about the smaller explosions that will happen.
This is a sick sick and twisted origin story, just like out of a Bruce Timm cartoon.
Yes. So yeah, and to underline how obvious the pathos is, we hear more repetitive dialogue like, he's depressed because he didn't have a family. And then Sandy says, oh, I wish I had a family. And then fate played its hand, as Mashy says, because he hears some noise from a nearby tree. He pokes the leaves with his rake, and he reveals a tree weasel nest. And he drops these wriggling potato babies into the crotch area of his pants, and he taps that. There's like a suspicious lump in his crotch, and then somehow the lump moves to his butt to make it more appropriate, I guess, or to make it turn from a boner joke into a I poop my pants joke.
Yeah, that's another standard of the Ren and Stimpy world of an innocent bulge in pants that they were able to get away with, or the rustling when we covered it with Bob, Jakes, and Thad in the Royal Canadian Kilted Yakman. The bit of Stimpy reaching into Ren's pants or kilt to get the $5, he's jerking him off.
Yes.
Like that's what they drew.
There's too much searching in that kilt for family audiences. So you can see where this is headed if we're not aware of who Sandy is, because one of the little not chipmunks, tree weasel heads emerges from his pants and he flicks it back in. So he's already in control.
Right. Yep, though he still sounds like a nice guy. And like you said, Bob, if this was a redo to make him less sinister, him being so sweet about it makes him much, much more evil, honestly.
And we hear their relationship begin in our next clip.
I'll raise you as normal children. I promise to love you more than anything. But boys, you must do something for me.
Anything you say, man. Just take it easy. Keep cool, man.
I want you to wear these clothes for me.
It's okay, man. Just do what he says. Don't make any sudden moves.
There's something else.
Anything, man.
Sure, anything, man. Oh, anything.
I want you to sing.
La, 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 la.
And I want you to sing really fast.
La, 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 la.
And I want you to sing backwards.
Ow, 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 ow.
Gradually, Sandy realized how gifted his progeny were and allowed them to display their talents.
So yes, he's torturing these poor chipmunks. This really is the most Ren and Stimpy style scene, because it's this looming father figure who is crying crocodile tears, I guess, putting on a show, but he's also being very sinister. And these three little naked potato babies are cowering against a box of Cheerios. I guess the parody here, these Cheerios are called Ohorids, and John Kay on the commentary says we're not allowed to tell you what this means. We cannot say that on this commentary. So I imagine it's a very dirty joke. That's an inside joke.
Yeah, boy. My first thought is this about the buttholes?
Probably.
Yeah. It's God, the way, I mean, yes, it's so dark in a funny way, but that the oldest brother, I'm assuming it's Elwee, saying like, anything you say, man, just take it easy, and then it's okay, and don't make any sudden moves, while like the younger brother is sobbing and just like, no, you're gonna get us killed, like it's okay, we're gonna make it out of this.
He's trying to like reassure his cowering brothers, but also like agree with whatever this horrible man is telling them.
And when he says sing real fast, they go la 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 and then he's like, and backwards, and they start saying Al, 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 and which is la backwards. I only got it listening to it right now. I was like, oh, that is great.
It's a nice gag, but yeah, this again, you should watch this cartoon. It's very easy to find online, and the drawings of Sandy are all very, very funny because he is just contorted in every time we cut back to him, and he's like drooling, he's crying, he's bent over them, he's sweating.
He's this broken man who's just like sobbing, like, please just put on the clothes and I just need you to sing. You'll be my good boys. Like he is a monster. He is a sobbing monster.
And through this montage, we see the Beatles-style rise of the Tree Weasels, although Sandy is the one who accepts their awards. And then Mashy's narration continues as she spins onto the screen like a newspaper would in any other cartoon or movie. And she tells us the Tree Weasels never forgot about who was less fortunate, like the orphans of Mouseville, and that's who they're honoring at the concert tonight. So that was established very early on in this 10-minute cartoon. So we immediately go there. Sandy goes to the stage to explain the purpose of the concert. And at the end of the show, the Tree Weasels will show up. We'll have a special surprise for the orphans. And what the surprise is parents. Because the proceeds for the concert will secure them all new parents. And I guess they wanted to say the proceeds will buy them new parents, but CBS said no. So they said, okay, they will secure you parents. But essentially, they're buying parents for the orphans.
Even that, I am surprised they got away with. Man, now I forget. I know we covered some cartoon, and maybe it was just The Simpsons where they made fun of orphans or something, and then they got concerned letters from parents saying, you know, a lot orphan kids are watching this, and you're really upsetting them with these jokes about orphans.
It might not be The Simpsons, but it's something that we talked about at some point in our 10,000 episodes of these podcasts. But listeners, do you know? Can you help us?
And yeah, they also do the Beatles getting off the plane joke. That was also in the B Sharps episode of Simpsons that we did. Honestly, every Beatles reference in this we already decoded in the B Sharps episode that we did with our Beatles expert guest. So just listen to that one. You'll know.
And there's a bit more cruelty from Sandy because he crumples up a bill and throws it to the front of the stage, and like an orphan, shakily tries to grab it with a hand, and he snatches it back with a rake.
Yes, these poor kids aren't going to get $1 out of him. Yeah, it makes his saintly act like even his like little prayer seem like, oh no, you know whether you're a businessman first. You don't really care about these orphans.
And finally, Sandy introduces the Tree Weasels, and they don't appear on stage, so he resorts to his old tricks in our next clip.
Elway, Elway, Elway. Oh, thank you. What's this? Dear Elwee and the Weasels. Plane carrying parents caught in thunderstorm. Stop. Has lost contact with tower. Stop. Signed, Shortstop. The parents' plane lost. Oh, that's terrible.
Wait here, Scrappy. Sandy, what's wrong?
The plane. With the parents. Out of control. Call my agent.
So it sounds like Ralph Bakshi would get annoyed when his staff would not put Mighty Mouse in the cartoon, so he would yell at them, just have him rescue a train or rescue a plane. So that's what this is here for. Like, suddenly, this has to be a Mighty Mouse cartoon. He has to rescue a plane that's about to crash, and it's your mandatory Mighty Mouse content for this 10-minute cartoon.
I'm sure it pleased me as a little kid watching it. Like, finally, Mighty Mouse is doing something super. Like, if you just give me 30 seconds of super heroics by Mighty Mouse, I'm still thinking that this is not a comedy and that I'm watching a super show.
And this is a very weird non sequitur because Mighty Mouse, he rescues this plane that's about to crash. Like a lightning bolt breaks it in half. He catches it in midair before it can hit the ground. And he finds out this plane is not full of parents, it's full of relish.
Yeah,
the pilot is eating the relish. I guess John Kay said he was obsessed with relish at the time and he wanted to work in relish jokes. Relish and Kirk Douglas are all over this series.
Yeah, that I don't. Maybe I'm having trouble remembering. I don't remember many relish jokes on Ren and Stimpy as opposed to the too many times to count of Kirk Douglas's face being drawn into Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah, it pops up a lot in this series for sure. So Mighty Mouse asks what happened, and I guess they were running low on parents, so they shipped out relish instead.
That's that parents are just an amount, like they're a consumable item. These aren't people who got hooked up with them. It's just like, well, it's like parents that we ordered relish instead of parents. That's cheaper.
And Mighty Mouse just goes, darn, and snaps his fingers. And then we don't know what's going to happen as the cartoon kind of comes to an end here. The tree weasels are performing. Sandy is sweaty. He's manic. He's fretting about the fact that the concert's almost over. The shipment of parents is not here. And the concert comes to an end, and it looks like the kids' hearts are all going to be broken. But then Mighty Mouse saves today in our final clip.
And now, kids, the moment you've been waiting for. Well, folks, I'm afraid I've got some bad news. It seems that...
Orphans of Mouseville, your new parents are here! Come on down!
Hey, don't I get a parent?
Isn't this great, boys? It just goes to show it's not the species that makes a family work, it's love. Right, boys?
Anything you say, man. Sure, just keep it cool.
And that's the story of Elwee and the Tree Weasels. Incredible, isn't it? Oh, and don't forget, always look both ways before crossing the street.
So we end with a Cheerio Iris out, and Mashy wraps up the story while winking at us with weird pepperoni eyes.
Yes, that Tiger Lily has become, or Mashy has become, street pizza in a pizza box. That's so cruel.
And it like this relationship with Sandy is going to continue, and no one's happy.
Yeah, even then, that he thinks, oh, isn't this a sweet ending? It doesn't matter the species. Like, sure, man, whatever you say, just keep it cool. Don't kill us.
And on the commentary, Tom Minton is also on the commentary. He gets to talk a lot. And I guess this ended with a different scene. It turns out that, well, what you're not seeing on the podcast, of course, is that these mouse orphans are all given different animal parents. And there was going to be another scene that shows they probably should not have been given different species parents. Their lives are not going to be great.
Yeah, I did. There, it's lions or elephants or things that would kill mice or crush them, and what they mentioned, like how they're also drawn perfectly to look like Disney animals. They are not the design style of the rest of the Bakshi characters. These adorable animals that take home the children.
Yeah, they're not. They don't really move, but it's a great pan across all of this art of the parents meeting their new children.
And is this official that Mighty Mouse, is Mighty Mouse not signing any papers to actually be Scrappy's parent, but him appearing there is his way of like, come on, you don't need a parent, you got me, Mighty Mouse.
Basically, I guess it's the saying that if we gave you a parent, you wouldn't be Scrappy the orphan. So
that it would ruin the show then. And maybe them putting in that dark joke about like you will be run over, they could cover with the censors by saying, no, it's the moral at the end of the episode. This is just like He-Man or G.I. Joe giving you a tip. This is telling kids to an important safety information.
Yeah, don't kill the messenger. What's a Mashy just is looking out for you.
Yeah, the pepperoni popping off the eyes is so crazy too. Yes, and that just Cheerios everywhere. It was that they got away with that too is just great. Like the amount of meanness in this, directed at the Nepo son of the Bagdasarians, who apparently were jerks who underpaid people or didn't give them credit like they did with Bob Jakes. It's funny to hear them take swipes at their bad dog owner and nemesis.
What they got out of it was, I think, the best cartoon from Mighty Mouse: The New Adventures. I mean, because it's not about Mighty Mouse. It's about 4 kinds of revenge made into a cartoon. And again, like I said earlier, it is the prototype for what Ren and Stimpy would be, especially some of the most notable episodes, like the whole John K. Like violent father figure that is like frightening but also funny for some kids, I guess.
And you've got Beatlemania gets parody too, so it's more of the same like childhood memories that are mixed in with original Mighty Mouse for them too, and you get to have a fun music video in it that has sexy Lynn Naylor ladies that will and Bruce Timm works on this. This is why we said it before. It's why Bruce Timm wanted her as one of the character designers for the first starting out of Batman the Animated Series. Poison Ivy is a Lynn Naylor girl too.
Yeah, she really defined the look of the women in that series for sure. Yeah, I'm not sure what else to say, but yes, this is definitely worth watching, at least this chunk of Mighty Mouse and New Adventures. And it is crazy to me to think the show is that important. I think we take it for granted. It's not really talked about anymore in terms of just what led to the state of animation as we knew it in the 90s and today. But yeah, I guess it should be revisited. This is clearly a bunch of artists getting some of their first work on the screen. It's John Kay running a show for the first time, but it's just interesting to see like the sandbox they were given and how really ahead of its time so much of this is. Like this could easily be a Tiny Toon segment 3 years later, but it's 3 years before and there was nothing else like this on TV and Steven Spielberg's name was not attached to it, giving them permission to do whatever they wanted.
It would be quite easy to replace Mighty Mouse with Plucky Duck in this cartoon. Like it'd be insanely easy. To know just how much talent was in this. All these people. I didn't even mention like Doug Mensch was a writer on this, who was a Batman writer, who's sort of a co-creator of Bane. It's a little mushy, but I would call him a co-creator. He was also on this, but to just know who the Rich Moore, the fourth person to direct The Simpsons, as well as Kent Butterworth, the third person to direct an episode of The Simpsons, are on this. Like the very first people who did The Simpsons in season 1, other than David Silverman and Wes Archer, are in this and hired their friends to work on The Simpsons. They were 3 years more seasoned in the industry by the time they were the young guys working on The Simpsons.
Wasn't Kent Butterworth technically the first guy to direct on The Simpsons with Some Enchanted Evening?
That's true. I count Wes and David as directors in that there is no credited director on the shorts, but you're right. Kent Butterworth is actually the first director of The Simpsons.
I mean, you could see why they hired him for that show, and then you can also see how he is bringing Mighty Mouse energy to that Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon he made in the early 90s. That he was, I guess, a supervising director or a big wheel at the Sonic factory figuring that show out.
I think he was the top animator on that. We covered that in a great episode on the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog with Ian Jones-Cordy. A lot of fun to talk about that one too. And yes, I'm so glad that Bob, you suggested we do this one. It is so important that it was crazy, the timing of it, that we talked a little. It got mentioned lightly in the Wreck-It Ralph history on Rich Moore. And then I listened to the first episode of The Blank Check on Andrew Stanton, and they mention him there too. I'm like, wow, it's just so much. And that's just two tiny examples.
Yeah, actually, that's what inspired this, is listening to the Blank Check series on Andrew Stanton, and they mentioned this is one of his first things. I'm sure I heard it before, but it refreshed my memory, and I thought, oh, why haven't we covered this? We're in year 9 of What a Cartoon. This honestly should have been year 1, but I'm glad we waited because we're much better at doing this now. We have much more time. So I say the next big mountain to climb, Henry, is Family Dog. We have to do Family Dog.
No, I'd like to do Family Dog this year. Let's do it. Yeah. Let's do Family Dog.
That's our promise to you, the listeners, and I'm sorry if we forget.
Yes, I won't. I'm writing it down, guys. I won't forget. I'll set a Family Dog alarm on my phone.
Your podcast daddies are very busy this time of year.
Yeah.
Whenever this goes live. Well, thank you for listening, everybody, and thank you for supporting us. And if you want more stuff, and if you want to not hear ads, go to patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons. Sign up there for 5 smackaroonies a month, and you will get access to ad-free podcasts that arrive 1 week ahead of time. And also, you'll access our vast back catalog of mini-series episodes covering shows like Futurama, King of the Hill, Mission Hill, Batman the Animated Series, and The Critic. And like I said up front, you also get a new episode of both Talking Futurama and Talk King of the Hill every month at that $5 level. So you basically unlock over 9 years worth of podcasts immediately the second you sign up. at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. And it supports us, and I know you like us. You sat here for this long. So, Henry, what's going on at the $10 level? There's another level, and there's a whole other batch of stuff out there.
Yes, it's the What a Cartoon Movie Bob is mentioning. That is at the $10 a month level. You get all the $5 stuff that already is a ton that Bob mentioned, but then you get basically 3 extra podcasts each month where we cover an animated feature just like we do a classic episode of an animated series. Just back in your free feed, you would have seen we covered Zootopia. You can hear the entire thing of Zootopia if you sign up there. At the end of this month, we're going to be covering Big Hero 6 as we wrap up our summer of Disney 2010s. And we mentioned the Wreck-It Ralph one as well. That has a ton of that's Jim Reardon and Rich Moore also worked on that. And the list is far too long to get into, but 2 I will spotlight for related to this is 1, we covered Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which is about this exact era of the return of animation to being good again in America. And we also went deep into Cool World, which is both the end of that era, or the cresting of that wave, and Ralph Bakshi's big blank check of his own that he got to cash in. And so there's a ton in the back catalog, hundreds of hours. Sign up at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. Check in the collections folders. You will see all of the great exclusives you're missing out on, in addition to early and ad-free podcasts. Once more, sign up at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
And as for me, I've been one of your hosts, Bob Mackey. You can find me on Blue Sky, as Bob Servo, also Letterboxd as Bob Servo, many places as Bob Servo. Don't trust any other Bob Servos. They're liars. And also, I have another podcast. It's called Retronauts. It's a classic gaming podcast about old video games. You can find that where you find podcasts, or go to patreon.com/Retronauts and sign up there for a bunch of bonus stuff as well. And Henry, what about you?
You can find me on Blue Sky and Instagram as Talking Henry. I'm always posting up some fun stuff there. And if you want to stay in the loop about our podcasts, follow at Talk Simpsons Pod. At Talk Simpsons Pod is the official account of both this podcast, What a Cartoon, and Talking Simpsons. When new stuff goes live on our Patreon, on the free feed, or when we have news, you will learn about it first if you follow at Talk Simpsons Pod. And if you want an easy-to-explore collection of all of the free podcasts we have released of Talking Simpsons and What a Cartoon, head over to TalkingSimpsons.com.
Thanks so much for listening, folks. We'll see you again next time for an extended preview for next month's What a Cartoon episode all about Big Hero 6, and we'll see you then.
You won't believe today's incredible story. Sandy Bottomfeeder was a young man who was depressed.
Gosh, I'm depressed.
Depressed because he didn't have a family.
Gosh, I wish I had a family.
It was at that moment that fate played its hand.
Oh, Rapture, my own little family. Let's go home, my loved ones. I'll make you happy.
And that was the day that Sandy met the tree weasels.
If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths, and sometimes heights, to ensure the power is always flowing. Which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Maintenance fee, overdraft fee, minimum balance fee, maximum balance fee. Banking fees are just a part of modern life. Or are they? They're not at Ally Bank. At Ally Bank, there are no tricks, no hidden fine print or jumping through hoops for better rates. They just want to help you save automatically while you spend, with spending accounts and savings tools with great rates. No tricks, no hidden fees, banking built for life today. Learn more at ally.com. Ally Bank, member FDIC.